Antifreeze series, powered by iRacing here on Racesport TV and iRacing Live. We'll be starting in just a few moments. Getting ready for the action pre-race. Join us in just a few moments' time. NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series, powered by iRacing, up sticks and brings the show to Avondale, Arizona for round 3 here at the Phoenix International Raceway. Good evening, I'm Rachel Whiteford. I'm joined tonight in the pre-race show by Cameron Walsh, Evan Pisoko and Tim Terry. Well, it's been an interesting season so far. 2 rounds in, we've had 2 different winners. And it's going to be an exciting one tonight as we debut the new rules package here for 2016. New low downforce, low drag package. Drivers are going to be sideways, drivers are going to be loose, and they're going to be racing hard here on the 1 mile oval known as Phoenix International Raceway. Good evening, guys.
Well, I'll kick it off. Good evening. Hello, Rachel. How are you doing tonight? Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you guys join us. But yeah, Phoenix. Boy, this is definitely just going to be one of those interesting races. It always has a habit of doing that, doesn't it, Evan?
It does, and I think tonight's going to be fun because outside of Richmond, this is the smallest track that we're going to go to. So Rachel mentioned we got a low downforce package. That's going to be fun, but this is a fun racetrack to go to. The newer of the 2 Phoenixes that you could find on the iRacing service. It's going to be in for a good time. You look historically at this race, it's normally the big names that get the job done, which tells you a thing or two about how hard it is to get around here.
Certainly is, and of course, Tim, multiple winners we've had here in the history of the series. We didn't come here in 2014, but we have been in here every other year since. Some drivers aren't back, but we do have 3 of them in the race tonight.
And historically, we do see some fantastic finishes to these races at Phoenix International Raceway. I had the opportunity to talk to Kevin King a little bit earlier, and he liked the old configuration. Still need to find some luck here, but he did win this race in 2011. You look at Nick Ottinger, Michael Conti, Ray Alfala, a who's who in this series. They're former winners here, and I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them take their 2nd career victory at this Phoenix International Raceway. But we kicked off the season with 2 different winners, and they're also looking to go back-to-back.
They certainly are, and of course, last year's winner was Ray Alfala of Slip Angle Motorsports. He's a previous champion and the winningest driver in the series. But we got a chance to catch up with him earlier today. Well, we're sitting down here with Ray Alfala between practice sessions. Thanks for joining us, Ray.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Of course, you 3rd in the points at the moment behind Alan Bowes and Jake Sturgios. You came home 8th at Daytona, and you came home 2nd at Atlanta. Good season for you so far?
Yeah, very good start. I think anytime you can finish in the top 10 at Daytona, anytime that you can avoid a crash at Daytona is actually a good start to the season, and then finishing 2nd at Atlanta. It's one of my best starts ever in the series, so we'll take that for sure.
Well, that's great to find out. Of course, Phoenix is going to be happening today, and this new package, of course, you've been testing, you've been in practice sessions. Just how different is this package compared to what we've had in the past?
Yeah, it's not too different. I mean, it's lower downforce and lower drag, so we're going a little faster down the straights, having to use a little bit more brake into the turns and slowing the car down more. But anytime it's harder to drive, it reminds me of the Gen 5 car, which I had more success driving that car than the high grip Gen 6 we've had so far. So I like the changes, and I think we'll see a bigger difference in upcoming races at Texas and Fontana than Phoenix. Phoenix shouldn't be too different from last year.
Well, that's certainly interesting information for the viewers at home to find out, and just how different this new rules package is. But, of course, as a previous champion in the series and the winningest driver in Peak Antifreeze series history, where did Ray Alfala come from?
Well, I started out in the consoles as a kid, playing Mario Kart and Road Rash and things like that. And then I moved on to the computer once I had a computer good enough to race, and I raced a lot of NASCAR 2003. Found myself getting kicked out of leagues there left and right. People thought I was cheating, when I obviously wasn't. But back then it was kind of way more common to have people hacking here and there. So eventually I found leagues where the drivers kind of all had in common that they've all had gotten kicked out of other places. So everybody kind of understood that was the deal, and made it to DMP in 2K3, which the old juniors league, and basically had a good career on there. And then once iRacing started, everybody just kind of moved over to iRacing, and then they announced that there would be a Pro Series, and then eventually the Drivers World Championship, which is now the NASCAR Big Antifreeze Series, and 2K3 I would say helped just because it gave me experience, but kind of starting on iRacing is kind of a clean slate. There's a lot of drivers in our series that never even sim raced before iRacing, so. And the way it was in 2K3 was it was through invite that you got into the big leagues, I guess you could say. And one of the things I really like about iRacing is that you don't need to have a name. You just need to show up, and if you're fast enough, and if you win races, and if you prove that through your results you're quick enough to get into the series, you'll get there.
Well, that's an interesting history for you. I believe you told me off air before that some of your earliest racing memories were from Mario Kart. So do you think Rainbow Road perhaps was some sort of defining moment in your NASCAR history?
Well, I didn't like Rainbow Road too much. I think my favorite was actually the Wario Stadium, which is more like a motocross type of track. But yeah, I mean, I kind of kid around, but that's really where I learned, where I learned how to apex, I guess you could say, and how to take corners correctly. And I remember, trying to find out which cart was the fastest. So I would sit there and do a time trial with each cart, and then write it down, just to see who was the fastest and whatnot. So, which, by the way, I think it was Yoshi, the one that was fastest, and then Bowser was slowest, but he was also the strongest, so it evened out. But anyway, yeah, Mario Kart, you can fool around with it, but you can also use it to learn stuff. And then for sure, as a kid, I was a big fan of racing, and Mario Kart was a lot of fun, and I definitely give it credit for teaching me a lot of the things that surprisingly transfer over to sim racing nowadays.
Well, I'm certainly surprised to hear that you learned proper racing techniques from Mario Kart, and you actually did testing in Mario Kart before racing, but it just proves the mindset you have as a driver in the Peak Antifreeze series, and the mindset that's made you the winningest driver in the series, of course. Your history with the series, of course, you've been here for a number of years, and you've seen many iterations of how the cars have changed, how the tracks have changed. Where do you think we're going in the future?
I think the future looks bright. Last year we got the dynamic tracks, so we have rubber buildup on the tracks, and I remember like 10 years ago talking about how cool it would be to have this in a sim, and a lot of people were like, well, yeah, it's probably a really long time away, maybe even 10 years. Well, now it is 10 years later, so it's I look for that to become even more advanced. Right now, the rubber builds up, but it doesn't quite build up as I'd like for it to. I'd like for the top, the highliner on the tracks to form even better than it does now. But that all comes through trial and error, and I think for iRacing's first ever iteration of how dynamic tracks and rubber buildup is, I think it was a really, really good start. So I think the future looks good, and they update the cars very quickly compared to how NASCAR does it. So I expect the series to just grow and become bigger into the future.
Well, a couple of quick questions before we let you go, Ray. Firstly, what is your favourite track within the iRacing service that is not a NASCAR track?
Favorite track that is not a NASCAR track would have to be Spa.
Spa-Francorchamps, good choice. And what would your favourite car be that is not an oval car?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't driven much of anything else lately, but back when iRacing started, I really liked to drive the Skip Barber. It was a lot of fun back in the day racing, back 2008, 2009, before all these top level series started out. So yeah, the Skip Barber is a lot of fun. I haven't driven in a while.
They're pretty sideways. They're a lot of fun these days, but interesting choices from you there. So Skip Barbers and the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. Very, very good choices and ones that work very well together, so I'll have to commend you for that, Ray. Well, we're going to let you go. Of course, you've got a lot of work to do, and you've, of course, got to go and get ready for qualifying, so thank you for joining us, and we'll hope to see you in Victory Lane later tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and look for the Falotech forward up front, along with all of my slip angle and last row teammates. Thanks a lot to them. They, we all work hard every week to put fast cars on the track, and I think we're seeing that. We have like 6 of us in the top 5, or 5 of us in the top 6 in points, something like that. So we're off to a good start. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us, Ray. Welcome back to the RaceBot TV pre-race show. Of course, that interview there with Ray Alfala, driver of the number 2 car, previous series champion, and the last winner we had here at Phoenix. And guys, this is a very contrary racetrack since the repave. Turns 1 and 2, between 10 and 11 degrees of banking. Dogleg has 10 to 11 degrees. Turn 3 is 8 degrees, and turn 9, 4 even. There's no turn 9. Turn 4 is 9 degrees. So this track, difficult. It's unlike Pocono with 3 corners. This has really 5. Makes it a real challenge for the drivers, Evan.
Well, yeah, and I said that I like to hesitate to call this a short track because we are looking at a track that's just a smidge over a mile in length, but just because of the way it is, with the lack of banking, the lack of lateral grip, really, you have to take it easy into the quarters because it's really easy to overshoot your entry. But because of that, you got guys waiting and waiting and waiting just for the car to rotate later in these races. Hopefully not early, but later on. Because of that, you're going to see these guys have the opportunity, especially down that backstretch, down to down leg, to get somebody's inside, to get aggressive, to get to the bumper, and, maybe force their way through when that lane isn't necessarily there. So while it's not by the statistics a short track, it sure races like one.
Cam, your thoughts?
Well, it's a really a classic track, I have to say. We didn't start racing as far as the back then it was the full Cup Series, now the Sprint Cup Series, but we didn't really start racing there until 1988, and even since then they've had amazing races here at Phoenix. It's really one of those old-fashioned ovals. They didn't just plan it out and build something that's so ultimately perfect. Of course, the dogleg came from when they built the original road course. Of course, now not there due to safety improvements, much needed. So you get these old classic races, and I hope we can see something like that, and it'll be an exciting race for sure here at Phoenix.
Tim, Phoenix, of course, has evolved a lot of the time. Since repave, it's really changed. We have a different race here tonight, and with this new package, I don't think the race is going to unfold.
Different rules package, as you mentioned. A lot of these drivers that I talked to before the race stated they're not sure how this race is going to play out. We've seen a lot of green flag racing within this series. These drivers know each other, but they're not sure of what that package is going to do. Talked to a couple of guys, said pit windows 80 to 85 laps or so. But do they get there under green is the question with this new rules package and what they're chasing. It's going to be a very interesting race to see how these 156 laps play out.
It certainly will be, and well, we're just going to head to commercials in just a few moments' time. But before we do, no, music, turn the music off. No, stop that.
It's the Oscars, you're cutting you
He's getting
short.
excited.
They're
Yeah,
cutting
I'm
you
getting
short
cut
there.
short like the Oscars. Just before we go, we'll have a quick roundup of race picks for tonight. My pick, Chris Overland. Evan?
I know Chris had a good run in Q there, but he's going to be at the back of the pack. I like Ray Alfala, and I know it seems like the obvious choice to go to, but he's the 2015 winner, and you just talked with him. He's been building momentum over the course of the first 2 weeks. I think he can get through tonight, get back at victory lane, and continue to pad those numbers.
That's a great pick. Cam?
You know what? I'm going to go with the number 58 Pete car, Kenny Humpy. We'll see if Humpy can do it here. You know, he's been close. He's been running up front all season. Let's see if he can pull one off. Hopefully we can see that blue and white Peak Antifreeze car up in victory lane today.
Interesting. Tim, finally?
I'm going to go off the board. We've had 2 drivers to start off this season to get wins that maybe we didn't even think about going into the race. How about Alex Warren? Let's call the number 82. We're going to go completely off the board here and see what we can do from, I think it's last place or so, where that 82 starting.
Well, there we go. We've got an off-the-board call. We've got some pretty safe picks, and it's going to be an interesting race. So, join us after the break, and you'll be joining Evan, Cam, and Tim in the booth for the race. I've been Rachel Whiteford. Keep watching for the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series, powered by iRacing.
The 2016 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series is all about change. New teams, new drivers, new tracks, even a new logo. And oh yeah, there's a brand new car. After 5 years of competition, we say goodbye to the Williams FW31 and we say hello to the McLaren MP430. But this isn't just a brand new car, it's a whole new ballgame. And with it, we bring new excitement, new strategies, new technology. For example, energy recovery and drag reduction systems. There's a new way of thinking about racing, and for all the drivers participating, it's back to the drawing board, wiping the slate clean in the ever-consuming pursuit of perfection. One little slip-up, one wrong move on track, one poor strategy call, and it's over. That's the difference between coming up short and becoming champion, and being $10,000 richer to boot. So yeah, change is in the air, but we're going to start getting answers on the 27th of February as the 7th year of iRacing World Championship competition kicks off. And you won't miss a thing, with every single race live on iRacing Live, coverage brought to you by RaceBot TV. So join us fortnightly from 1:30 p.m. GMT.
to $20,000 runs through the Phoenix International Raceway. This is round number 3 on the 2016 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. Good evening, sim racing fans. My name is Evan Pasoko, joined alongside by Cam Walsh and Tim Terry, and we're happy to be topside in the Race Spot TV broadcast tower, along with Hugo Louise in the director's chair, and as well Rachel White for joining us from the pre-race stage. 2 down and still many to go as we head to Avondale, Arizona's Phoenix International Raceway for the Phoenix 250K. And Cam, tonight we have a brand spanking new 2016 rules package on hand, and I say no better than the best sim racers in the world to be tossed into the fire with just a handful days worth of practice and have to attack it head on.
No, they absolutely will. Well, there's really no other way to look at it other than this isn't. I don't think it's going to be a crapshoot per se. This is going to be. I still think we're going to see our fast guys up front. And but you never know. Someone could master this package just a little bit faster, put in a couple more laps of practice, and get just their way around this brand new sprint car package that we have here. And hopefully they can push their way up to the front. They'll stay out of trouble, and maybe just as Tim Terry said, we could see a very interesting name up front at the end of the race.
We're going to see the big names up front for sure. I want to talk about Chris Overland, Tim. That's the pick that Rachel took. He's P2 right now with our 15-minute warm-up session. He had a pole worth time, but he nicked the fence in qualifying, so his time was disallowed. He'll be 42nd on the grid. We'll take a look at our entire starting lineup when the guys get set to roll for 156 laps tonight. So for a fast guy like him, starting deep in the packet, we're going to have big names back there for sure. With 156 laps of competition, how far back is too deep?
I don't think it is that deep. You have some good company back there. You've got a guy like Kevin King back there. Mentioned Alex Warren a little bit earlier. Got some guys back there that know how to carve their way towards the front of the field. And with this racetrack, especially if you're at the back or you're in the middle portion of this pack, Evan, you really got to keep your head up, especially early in the race when we have a lot of race cars in the racetrack. Guys are going to try to get everything they can on these restarts with this new rules package. Could throw 1 or 2 of them for a loop. I don't think too far back is too far back here tonight. You might see one of those guys make their way towards the front of the field.
Warm-up session begins to draw to a close. We look at Phoenix, as we mentioned, pre-race as well. The only time this race wasn't on the calendar was back in 2014. Other than that, we've seen it raced 5 times in 6 years of competition, and we saw 5 different champions and winners of this race every single time. So we know that we could see a couple of names looking to pick up their second Phoenix win, but this track historically can lead to some first-time winners. Let's take a look at our NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing championship standings as we now enter the 3rd round of competition. Alan Bowes topping the pile over Jake Sturgis, Ray Alfala 3rd, just 3 points behind. Other big names up there: PJ Sturgis, Brandon Schmidt inside the top 5, Overland, Mahar, Fayash Hill, Nick Ottinger rounding through the number 10 position. Alan Bowes had a dominant NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series campaign in 2015-2016, but he didn't get the championship. He had that one stolen outright from underneath him by Josh Berry. He's come back into this series, and he's coming in hot.
Well, that he is. I mean, we've just, it's been an interesting run with Daytona, and then we went right on over, but this is one of those races. Oh, I'm sorry, did I talk out of order? I don't know. Well, we're going to see who pulls them their way up front here. I think we've seen some pretty familiar faces up front. As time has gone on, though, I think, especially with this package, we're going to see some new faces, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about these drivers as the time gets on going, as we are getting very close to race time.
Phoenix sitting in at 1.022 miles. Richmond going to be coming up in a couple of weeks' time. But other than that, it's the intermediate racetrack. It's some of the bigger racetracks that make up the bulk of the season, Tim. Is there a kind of driver that'll benefit from a track like this over some others?
I don't know if there is, especially this early in the season, and as we mentioned, with a little bit of a new car coming into this race. Obviously, you listen to Ray Alfala in the pre-race show, the slip angle, LRM guys, they've been solid so far this season. They've got some cars up near the front of the field for this race. I think this one is going to be exciting. You might have to beat those guys, though, in order to get into victory lane.
The qualifying earlier on in the evening has been completed. Now the warm-up session is done, and we are set to go racing for the third round on the 2016 NASCAR PK Free Series powered by iRacing. Let's take a look trackside at our RaceSpot TV starting grid as they get set to do battle for 156 laps in the Avondale Sun. Pole position, one of the names we talked about inside the top 10 in the points, PJ Sturgis, 26-791. He'll bring us across the start-finish line to take the green flag tonight. He'll be joined on the front row at P2 by the 74 of Taylor Hurst. Patrick Crabtree get a roll from the number 3 spot in P4, the 28 of Casey Tucker, with Kenny Humpy P5 alongside with Matt Busa in 6th. Jake Sturgis rolling in the number 7 position. It's a P8 for Mitchell Hunt. Corey Vincent will roll tonight in the number 9 position, and your number 10 qualifier is Michael J. Johnson.
Yes, and Brad Davies is going to be starting in 11th, Justin Bolton in 12th, Cody Bias in 13th, Dylan Duvall in 14th, Josh Berry starting in 15th, Thomas Davis in 16th, Nick Ottinger, he's starting back in 17th, Dylan Rafferty is going to start outside of him in 18th, Tyler D. Hudson even is in 19th position with Trey Edson on his outside line.
David Rattler going to start in position number 21 to his outside old two-time. Ray Alfala starts in 22nd. Alan Bowe starts 23rd. 24th, Damon Burnett. Andrew Fash III. Brad Mahar's had a good start to the season. He'll roll off in 26. Nick Furler, Ryan Borges, Brian Blackford, and Adam Gilliland in 30th.
Michael Conti, Brandon Schmidt, Nicholas Johnston, Tyler Loffitter, Nathan Wise through 35th. Byron Daly, Shane Doherty, Timmy Hill, Tyler Hill, and Ryan Lowe in 40th. And in 41st, 42nd, and 43rd, we'll go to Kevin King, Chris Overland, and Alex Warren. We've seen a big track and a medium track. Now it's time to do a little bit of short track racing. And we're happy to have you right here on RaceSpot TV, as well as live at our partners at iRacing Live, Fans Choice TV, and the Motor Racing Network. Round number 3 of the 2016 NASCAR PK Free Series underway. Green flag waves from Phoenix International Raceway. Your pole sitter PJ Sturgis hard down to turn number 1 for the first time. He'll set the pace coming off the quarter. The Lastro Motorsports Ford goes out in front to Taylor Hurst, P2, Patrick Crabtree 3rd, and a P4 for Casey Tucker. Single file inside the top 5.
Yes, and what a start from that number 57 from PJ Sturgis, using a ton of that dog leg. I think we'll see that a lot tonight there, Evan, as he will pull his way, completing out lap number 1, starting lap number 2. Great start from Sturgis, as he has already got about 0.3 of a second on Taylor Hurst. We'll see if he can increase that lead as he goes through the dog leg one more time.
A dogleg going to be a go-to, I'll tell you what, every single time at a restart tonight. It's not the best way to go around this joint if you're trying to hang on to those tires, so you're not going to see it once we get a green flag lap in the works here, green flag run, unless, of course, you find yourself in a battle. But that really does want it out the back part of this racetrack. Everybody playing nice up front, a little bit of congestion down in 3 and 4 the last time round, side by side with the 42 with Dylan Duvall. He's scored in 13th position, the Infinite Creative Solutions Chevrolet top side. At the inside is Justin Bolton. Digging up the bottom, not enough though. 42 on the outside, actually get a pull into the corner.
The team teammates battling for that position behind them, Josh Berry and former champion Tyler Hudson. There's Nick Ottinger in that line as well, the 05 car, a former winner here at the Phoenix International Raceway. The 01 sucks up to the 88 going down into corner number 1, not able to make the move this time as Nick Ottinger tries to reel in that 8 assigned wrap 01 as they work the dog leg down the back straightaway. Lap number 4 being put on the board.
The 88 horrible out of turn number 4. Hudson got a run, didn't elect to go to the inside. He just stayed plastered on the back bumper, so no change for position back there. Everybody inside the top 10, in fact, do run single file. First battle is around P20, I think, with the 20 with Alan Bowes. Your championship leader finding himself right in the middle of the pack, started P21. He'll take another spot as David Rattler tries to fight back on the outside. That's a good one, and you see the 21 on the inside uses that dog leg to clear himself by the time he does get down into the quarter. Well, they're not single file, or they're not double file, rather top side on the racetrack. Doesn't mean, Kim, that single file can't be fun. We have a lot going on around the number 50 to Patrick Crabtree. He's got Casey Tucker all over the back bumper in 2.
Yeah, well, yes, he does just come on right on through, as they will. Now, from what I've seen, close running is right where Ray Alfalo is, right behind Nick Ottinger and Tyler D. Hudson. Now, looks like Ottinger's a little faster coming out of 2, and he's been looking down on that dog leg. He's trying like 2-3 times now to get past, and I think Ray Alfalo and his Ford Fusion has been watching Nick Ottinger as he leans once again to the inside line, but he hasn't bitten yet on Tyler Hudson. We'll have to see what Nick wants to do and what Ray wants to do, as Ray has a little bit of a gap to Alan Bowes behind him in the position number 19.
It's hard to not look deep in the pack and think that there's big names back there, because you mentioned that 2 machine working around the 05 of Ottinger, working around the number 21 machine as well, so there's a lot of guys doing battle right in the middle of the pack. That's already 4 seconds behind your race leader. I said PJ Sturgis was gone to turn 1. That's the last we talked about him. He's doing pretty good. He's about half a second in front of Taylor Hirsch, just a little bit shy of a 5/10 of a second gap. The 74 still runs P2. The car that started 3rd, Crabtree's still there. Car that started 4th, Tucker, still there. And the car that started P5 is still there in Humpy. Even Matt Busa, who started P6, is still there in line. So up front, they really negotiated things out well. They were all single file by the time they got off turn number 2 for the first time. Already trying to stretch out the legs, get spread out. They're definitely doing that in the front.
And you look at 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Those guys are tucked up tight together, though not making a move and not really putting any pressure on each other. That's Crabtree, Tucker, and Humpy at 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We talked off the hop about a guy that might be good here. You look at the 74, Taylor Hurst. He was strong at Richmond last season in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. Likes these short tracks, has come a long way in this series since he hopped on in 2015. Taylor Hurst might be one to watch here this evening, especially with the solid qualifying run. He's got about a half second between himself and PJ Sturgis as they continue to battle for 3rd. Crabtree holding the spot over Tucker and Kenny Humpy.
Crabtree, he wants to get up, get to the 74 Hurst, but again, the 15, he's just had a miracle since the drop of the green flag, and it looked like Casey Tucker might be a bit quicker. You see, drives it in hard to turn number 1, closes the gap to about half a car length. If he can't make a move on the 15 sooner than later, he's got that 58 of Kenny Humpy, who I will say has been rather flying under the radar so far in 2016, not making a lot of noise. Qualified a P5, and as well, we should note, was the fastest driver in the warm-up session before we took to the grid tonight. The 58 Peak Chevy just behind it. He'll take an opportunity and he'll pounce all over Casey Tucker if that 28's more concerned about the 15 in front than him behind him.
Well, you always got to try and watch your rear, but especially on the mile-longs here, it's very easy to be the aggressor and not necessarily the defender here at Phoenix, unless you're really able to clamp it down and use your tires to your advantage. But already Casey Tucker, he just seems to be holding off. He doesn't want to bite going on the inside yet. It's a pack of 2 Fords and a Chevy here, so that Chevrolet of Kenny Humpy is looking to get past, but I have to say, he doesn't seem too antsy right now, going through the dog leg one more time here. Well, at least they're just about to. As all 3 will take it. Actually, Kenny Humpy, the lowest taking, as we're going to go look now. Car number 8, that's Adam Gilliland. Ooh, Adam Gilliland's getting him stacked behind him. Nicholas Johnson in that 90. He's looking with Brad Mahar and Nick Ferrier 2 behind.
It's a good fight as well. Another one going on back in the pack. You want to talk about somebody getting ganged up on. How about the 55? And Nick Furler and sideways coming off for the corner at that time. He'll be able to gather it back up, but hang on. He'll lose a couple more spots. The 13 of Mahar, and as well, it looks like the 22 machine coming through, Brian Blackford. And here goes Brandon Schmidt on the outside. Normally, you think the bottom the place to be, but that 55 has been on the inside the last 3 laps. He's lost 5 spots from it. So what does he do? He goes to the outside, and now he's getting attacked down low. The 32, Orion Borges on the attack. It's just hard to get back to the gas on the inside in 3 and 4. He won't be able to do anything that time, but he'll drive it back hard down into 1.
32 going to try to go back to the inside of the 55. There's the 93 of Byron Daly and the Focus Energy shot, number 93, trying to make a move on the outside. The 47 of Chris Overland back there. Remember, he started at the back of the pack in 42nd position. This is a battle for 30th, continuing to work his way up. And just in front of this mess, you mentioned Brad Mahar kind of leading this pack with the 90 and the 8. Brad Mahar had a very solid run at Atlanta, has moved his way into the top 10 in the point standings. Watch for him to be strong at the end of this race. He knows you can't win this thing on lap number 16. We still got 140 laps to go.
There is still plenty of time, but I think that could be due in part that you're seeing these guys hesitate to go to the inside. I talked about the interaction we saw earlier on with the 58 machine of Kenny Humpy and as well Tyler Hudson behind in a separate battle with Josh Berry. Hesitant to look to the inside of the racetrack, not want to force any issue yet. There is still plenty of time, but they're still getting stuck behind somebody, and you're almost waiting for somebody to open up the door and go for it. We haven't seen any big movers really till you look deep in the pack. A couple of guys picking up 7 or 8 spots. Nicholas Johnson, one of the names, but he's outside of the top 25. Battle inside the top 5. Here comes Kenny Humpy looking to the inside on Casey Tucker. Doesn't force the issue though. He swallows the pill and ducks back in line, and he'll have to wait another lap.
Well, he will. Passing here does kind of come at a premium, but, well, we'll have to see here. I hope nobody forces them their way through. Ooh, Kenny has to roll himself onto the brakes. They're coming into 3 and into 4, and we'll see. Maybe he peeks his nose in down here. It's a little, the window's a little too big to look on the inside of 4. It's a little deceiving as they are trying to, well, they're starting to run out a little bit of time here as Taylor Hurst is pulling away in position number 2. And PJ Sturgios is absolutely checked out. He has managed almost a second gap, Evan, in just 20 laps here. So that is just impressive. There is Casey Tucker and Patrick Crabtree are going side by side now.
I'll tell you, the 58, he feels the heat off the defending champion, Kenny Humpy, behind him, and he wanted to go to the inside. He used that dog leg, but they haven't been using it in all races, I mentioned. You can go down there if you want. Probably not a good game to conserve those Goodyear Eagles. So he went down to the inside. He actually had got that inside position. The problem is, the bottom, not necessarily the preferred lane, way down there when you got a guy on your outside. 15 leaves it open. He'll drive it in again, side by side for P3. And second time in a row, Crabtree just gets back on the accelerator out of 4, and he gets the spot, and now Humpy closes in quickly to the back of Tucker, can't do anything with it. This is not going to end anytime soon, and while they're battling, they're actually closing in just a little bit on Taylor Hurst, the 74, starting to lose touch with Sturgis up front now, 1 second back from your leader.
1 second back, and then you had Patrick Crabtree, as you mentioned, sitting there in position number 3. Casey Tucker trying to make that move in the middle off, and you're not going to get that run corner off on the inside when there's somebody on the outside of you. Patrick Crabtree has been able to get that run, especially off corner number 4, to maintain position number 3. And it looks like, as you mentioned, reeling in that number 74 of Taylor Hurst for position number 2. So as that pack gets tighter, PJ Sturgis begins to pull away once again. He gained about 0.2 of a second that last lap. It's 1.2 seconds between your top 2 drivers, and we're about a quarter of the way through what would be a fuel run here this evening. Lap 22 completed, about 80 to 85 laps on the fuel. So maybe PJ Sturgis thinking, hey, we're not going to get to that full 80-85 laps. We're going to see a caution flag. Maybe use what I can and maybe put that to my advantage later on in the race.
And once we saw that pass up front, we saw a couple more battles back in the back. Ray Alfala besting Tyler Hudson in the battle for the number 16 position. Deep down the 58 of Kenny Humpy finally got to the inside on Casey Tucker. Did he do anything with it? No! The outside every single time, it feels. In turn number 4, just able to power back down and in front. And that number 28 Ford get to stay in front of the 58 Chevrolet for the time being. But as Hurst slides back and PJ Sturgis looks like he continues to hold his pace, and he doesn't plan on losing that anytime soon. You're starting to get these guys stacking up. The 74, the 15, the 28, the 58, as Tim had just mentioned, Cam. And now you're starting to get a big pack of cars. Matt Busa, he wants to get into the conversation, and if you count that 34 as a part of the battle, well, he sits about 4 or 5 car lengths off of Humpy. You have to throw Mitchell Hunt in there. You have to throw Jake Sturgis in there. There's no real large breaks of cars. You got guys lined up about 2-3 tenths apart all the way through the top 10.
Yes, and Nick Ottinger has a car himself on the inside. Alan Bose, he's been a while now. It's been 3 or 4 laps where he stuck his nose onto the inside, being difficult to pass here, showing on a mile long how difficult it could be. But I'm surprised. Patrick Crabtree was getting very pressured by Casey Tucker to go to what we were talking about earlier over the last 5-6 laps, and now Taylor Hurst is in the gun sights of Patrick Crabtree's Ford. So we'll see that 15 going well to the inside into the dogleg, but I just think, at least for right now, that outside line should have it. But let's see, can Patrick Crabtree get it? He won't get on the power first, or will he? It's going to be the Chevrolet on the outside of Taylor Hurst in that 74 car. He will get the lap, but, well, actually, Crabtree is going to have to back off. I think that turn 1 is so very much a 1-lane turn.
And it was the 74 who was going backwards, the 15 who was going forwards, and still Hurst was able to hold on the outside all the way down. Halfway to the fence goes Crabtree because he wants to hold off Casey Tucker, the 28. Beautiful move as the 15 tried to navigate the inside there, Tim. Came slow off at a corner, and the 28 of Tucker said, well, the inside doesn't work. I want the outside, and he'll use that to take P3. And now Humpy looks to the bottom for fourth.
Humpy looks to the inside of the 15 of Patrick Crabtree. The last 5 laps or so, Crabtree was going to the apron on the dog leg, trying to get a little bit of momentum, but he can't seem to do that when he's A, on the outside, or B, somebody's on the outside of him to try to make up a little bit of room. When he's side by side, it doesn't seem like that inside line will work for him. Now Kenny Humpy trying to make it work. He's got an advantage at a corner number 4. 15 going to put the throttle down, going to have that momentum at a corner number 4 and pick up that position once again over Kenny Humpy. Humpy going to have to try to reset his focus on that position. And oh, by the way, Matt Busa has closed in on this battle as well. Busa wants a top 5 spot.
And he's all over the back of the 58, and again, it's almost an eat or be eaten mentality. Well, you want to take it easy. We talk so much about how long this race is. You got to get up and go. Battle for P2. Hurst on the outside. Tucker sideways off of turn 4. Bottom lane just again did not work. It'll be difficult for him to set that 74 up to get to the outside of him. If in fact that's what he wants to do, it worked good on the 15 behind him, so why not give it another shot? But it would be difficult to get to Hurst. All of this now 2 seconds back from PJ Sturgis, the driver who was 38th in practice, but your pole sitter has great race trim. He is starting to pull away. Now 30 laps in the books from Phoenix International Raceway. It is all PJ Sturgis so far in round number 3. But I'll tell you what, Hurst still maybe just by a couple hundredths per lap, but he's a little bit slower than Tucker, and that consistently is causing these guys to back up and back up. Soon, we're going to have a big gaggle of cars on our hand. Tim talked about Busa getting into the conversation. Sturgis is there as well, and in fact, the number 41 takes a spot away from Matt Busa in turn number 4. So move the 41 up to P6, drop Busa down to 7, and just in front of them, it's Humpy to the inside, and Crabtree lets him go. That battle was for 4th.
Yes, I think with this aero package, they're starting to figure out where these tires are going. Kenny Humpy getting massively loose coming out of turn number 2. That is Crabtree right behind him in that number 15. And it is now a run for 2 wide for position number 2. Finally, Casey Tucker looking to the inside. He doesn't give him the door, though, which he most certainly could have drifted up there, and that could have been dramatic. But he backs out of it, but he now looks leaning in on those brakes going in through turn number 1. He might have a chance here, actually, coming off. If he takes the dog leg, he does not, but he has lost in entry to turn number 1 and 2. Kenny Humpy is looking to take advantage of it, and just look at how they go through the dog leg. Casey Tucker coming right back up into his lane. Now, what I wanted to say before they started all this hot racing, PJ Sturgis' laps have been trailing off the last couple of laps. I've been watching his overalls. He was into the mid 27s at the start, and now he is in the 28.7s right now. His pace is getting slower, yet the problem is with all of this racing that everyone else is doing, everyone else is also slowing up, and they are just not catching up with him at all. If this continues to go green, this race could most certainly be in the hands of PJ Sturgis, especially when they're racing like this as Kenny Humpy looks to take position number 2 away, going into 1.
I was talking about a Kenny Humpy. Hasn't been loud so far through 2 races, and he made that one look easy. Up the bottom on Taylor Hurst, and now in second. But I love that move that he made on Casey Tucker. Tucker's the one that made that move on Crabtree a couple of laps ago, and at the 28, knock it on the inside, but he can't get to the outside of Hurst the way they run right now. But when somebody's side by side and the inside slows out, the outside is open. Humpy saw the 28, did it, I'll do it back to him. The outside worked, he crossed him over and then passed him on the inside, and now Kenny Humpy in clean air, 2.6 seconds behind Sturgis, who again, they're all losing lap times. The tires starting to wither away. We talked about you could make it much longer than what the tires are going to last on a fuel. How long you stay out on the tires really is going to be the primary question. Let's see if Humpy can do anything with a little bit of clean air to get to your leader, and he leaves the side-by-side fight behind him. Casey Tucker just cannot get a break. Taylor Hurst is not giving him an inch, and he will not give up that number 3 spot.
But the one thing that Kenny Humpy did on the pass with the 74 and the 15, he set it up going into corner number 1, and he was clear by the time he hit corner number 2. The 28 of Casey Tucker's been working the inside of the 74 of Taylor Hurst for multiple laps. He might get it here going down into corner number 3. The 74 pulls back even through the corner. They're going to be side by side. 74 going to have the momentum off the corner. 28 going to keep it steady on the inside. 74 going to pick up that position once again, but it's one of those things. He picks up that position on the inside going into turn 1. He's clear at a turn 2. Humpy's car, yes, looks strong on the long run, but he's also being smart and wise where he's picking his passes, and that's why he set sail to P2 and set sail from this Bat 11 over a second.
And he's been faster than Sturgis since he got clear. Closing in the gap now, a couple of tenths per lap. 15, but Crabtree smacks the fence that time in turn number 4. Battle for the race lead closes in a tenth that time by, but a 15 watching behind him. How about Brad Davies? P11 on the grid. Now move him up another spot into the number 6 position. Jake Sturgis tried something to his inside. It didn't work. Both these guys have gotten around Matt Busa in the last 5 laps. The 34 still there, still with Mitchell Hunt just behind him. But once the tires really started to fall away, the single file line went away. Brad Davies sideways off of turn 4. He'll lock it up on the inside. What a save by the 11.
Well, absolutely. He had to wheel that car around, and I'm seeing many times now people are creeping right up to the outside of turn number 2. They are starting to tap that wall, no less, as right now Bias will have go to the inside of Brad Davies, and he looks like he might have that position going into 4 with Ray Alfala in that number 2 looking on. I have to say, Kenny Humpy, the last 2 laps now, that right rear, the rear quarter panel of that number 58 car has tapped the outside wall at turn number 2 twice now. These tires are starting to run to the ragged edge here, and I have to wonder when these might expect these cars, as we're closing in on lap number 42, to come down pit road for the first time.
He got really close that time, just about as close as you could get without hitting it, as he knocks another 2 tenths off of the board in comparison to Sturgis the last 2 times around. And I think your answer going to come sooner than later, Cam, because pit stop's going to be rung in this time by Alan DeBose over the radio saying he'll be in as well. A couple of other drivers going to be coming down to the pit lane just as we put 41 laps into the books.
You got Michael Conti that's already visited pit road, Kevin King visiting pit road. Some of those guys and a lot of these drivers near the back half of the field. We'll have to see when a guy like PJ Sturgis decides to throw the hand out the window and come down pit road. Kenny Humpy, Taylor Hurst, they're all staying out in the racetrack right now, and Hurst still under fire from Casey Tucker. Tucker had a great corner exit off corner number 4, reeled the 74 back in, and now he's going to take a peek to the inside, looking at the left rear quarter of the 74 car. Not going to get there at a corner number 2. He'll try down the back straight away, but a lot of these drivers, Evan, that are heading to pit road, a lot of them outside the top 20 in the back half of the field. Maybe they're trying to short pit, try something a little bit different on the strategy to try to make something happen here tonight.
The short pitch strategy always a go-to. PJ Sturgis ran his best lap at lap number 2. It was a 27-1. Right now, he's running 29.0. So you're looking at about a 2-second tire fall off over the course of a 40-lap run so far. So when those guys come in the pit, they're going to get back out on track for a couple laps. They'll be about 1.5-2 seconds faster than the guys that stay out. Of course, when your leaders come down to the pit lane, the advantage will swing in their favor, but that's why the short pit is always a popular call for a couple of guys just shy of the top 10, maybe just shy of the top 15. You make the call, you try to get a couple of spots here and there and see what it's worth. But I will say Casey Tucker relieved, because finally Cam got around Taylor Hurst. It's not the 74's job to let him go or make it easy. He absolutely made that 28 machine work and earn his money's worth.
Well, he did, and once he saw he had the position, they could have most certainly challenged going through the corner, but he backed out very wisely, I might add. Tucker now in position 3, and Jake Sturgis is pushing into the picture here. Matt Busa was right behind him, and he's actually taking a very narrow apex into turn number 1, leading well out into turn number 2. We've seen quite a couple of cars go in the wall, and there goes Crabtree into the outside retaining wall in out of the exit of turn number 2 here. as that 74 car of Taylor Hurst, that Chevrolet's, the tires are starting to run off. Jake Sturgios, though, he seems to have the pace on these old tires. He wants a bit of the action, as well as Matt Busa, as the 05 just came into the pits. That, of course, I believe, it's not Conti, is it? He already came in. It's Nick Ottinger. He is in the pits. He is away as we are completing these green flag pit stops, but I have to say, that's almost a risky proposition, as these guys are running very hard up front. They almost look like they want to try and go 3 wide.
He talked about back-to-back Crabtree catching the fence at the exact same time. Taylor Hurst did the same, but it opened up the door for Sturgis. Didn't work that time by, but this time by at 47 to 41, getting another peek to the bottom of the racetrack. Nothing from it. 10 to 74. Breaks a little bit early. It almost looked like he was going to let him go, but he powers back, and now you see fresh tires. Look at the 81. 3 wide to the inside. It goes Mitchell Hunt. That is 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles on the bottom of the racetrack, and that's the speed differential that fresh tires and old tires is in. A great visual there for you. Now in the middle of green flag pit stops, because not everybody is in agreement on when they want to come down to pit lane. We saw the first cars in 9 laps ago. Now we're seeing these guys up front continue to stay out. You're going to have lots of that. Slow drivers versus up the guys who have the fresh tires, trying to get themselves off of the 1 lap in a negative bracket, and that can cause for some interesting scenarios and close calls.
If you're pitting every 40 laps, it's going to take 3 stops to get lap 156. 41 car going to peel off and come down pit road, this time by Jake Sturgis from position number 6. If you can stretch it somehow to 60 laps, it's only 2 stops, so we might be seeing 2 different strategies here. I don't know if anybody's going to go to that 80-85 that they can on the fuel, but I'm sure somebody is going to at least try it in this field as the 74 continues to hold off the 34, but he may be heading towards pit road this time by. 21 goes to the outside. Here comes Busa and the 74. They're both going to head to pit road.
We saw plenty of this strategy in a couple of races prior, and I'll tell you what, the 57 to PJ Sturgis, if he wants to hit the marker, 156 laps, start to finish tonight, he'll have to go 52 laps on every single run. He's on lap number 51, and he continues to lead the way to Kenny Humpy and Casey Tucker. Ray Alfala going to come down pit road. The number 2 Machida, 22nd on the grid, has found himself at a P4, partly due to the fact that he's been doing work early in the race, and partly due to the fact that he continues to stay out. He locks him up and gets him down in time. So this time by, guys, PJ Sturgis going to take the 1/3 distance marker in this race. If he can hit this fuel number every single time, he would be able to make it on a 2-stop strategy. The question would be, if we continue to stay green, those drivers that are coming down to the pit lane 3 times, is giving up that time for service going to be costed for you when you get back out there, and are the fresh tires going to make up for the time lost?
Yes, and Evan, they are going 4 wide at the entry to pits there. We just had a pair of cars come on down to pits. That is Brad Davies and Patrick Crabtree from the front of your running field here, as I believe those with tires have come out just right where all of these front-running cars on old tires are, so it's a mix. The new tire cars are doing very, very high 27s, 27.9s, whereas the old tire runners, the low runners here, are running almost near to 30s, which is a massive gap. So it's creating a lot of near issues, near misses here on the track here at Phoenix International. But I have to say, it's you'd hate to see a caution come out, but as you say, with that 2 fuel stop windows, our leader comes down, PJ Sturgios, giving the lead to Kenny Humpy. Ultimately, though, you have to worry if there's a couple of cautions, though. Those people who are working on 3 pit stops, which I would put my numbers to, just judging by these early lap numbers, but of course I'm not the chief here. I would most certainly look at that, because there's bound to be a caution at some point, which could definitely get those 2 pit stop runners in contention.
It wouldn't be the first time, if we can do it tonight, for a race to go green all the way in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, but definitely can't bite the numbers. They say you're going to get at least 1, and now you see the 57 of Sturgis. He's back on track, and look how much faster he is than a 5 of Michael Conti, then a number 1 of Machine on the outside of Transit. He's going to be hauling the mail through the field on the inside of the racetrack, but how much 3 wide and 4 wide we've seen is unsettling to me. I'm hesitant to say that the 57, I'm liking his call, but I do think the 2-stop call may be the way to go versus 3. You could go a 1-stop race. You have enough fuel to do it, Tim. I don't think realistically anybody wants to stay out there for 78 laps of competition, but Sturgis and as well race lead handed away to Kenny Humpy, who's still out there now 57 laps into this race, out in front of the field, and he's leading off of quarter number 2. If he elects to as well go with the 2-stop strategy, it looked pretty good on that first run at least. We're really going to find out though in the middle portions of this race by the time we get to the second pit stop for everybody whose strategy is working. Kenny Humpy, it looked like he was almost trying to get down to the pit lane that time, but he go 3-1. He is well off the pace, but so far he's not even looking down at the pit lane.
You look at some of these cars, you mentioned the 2 and 3 wide unsettling right now. Corey Vincent is second in car number 10, but he's got a gaggle of fast cars around him. And oh, by the way, Cody Bias in the 27, Justin Bolton in the 36. That is for position. Furler to the inside of the 36 trying to make up a lap. You got a lot of the team members. Kenny Humpy, Cody Bias, Justin Bolton, Dylan Duval, and the Silent Ninja Thomas Davis staying out on this racetrack along with the 10 of Corey Vincent. Oh, there's a lot of unsettling times, 27, 36, and 10. They're battling for a spot, but they're battling around the cars that came down pit road. We're 3 wide down the front straightaway.
The 55 to the outside, the 3 to the bottom on the 27 Bias. He doesn't stay there with it. That's a lap machine. The 22 top side. And around the outside of the racetrack goes Brian Blackford. And all of this, well, Corey Vincent just tries to hold the queue line and let these guys go by high and let them go by low. It is an extreme difference on the tires versus the old tires. Corey Vincent still on the same call with Kenny Humpy, who has yet to come down to the pit lane. They're now 18 laps away from being able to make it to the halfway point. They are really stretching this first run out, though, in front of the field, and it's crucial for these guys to be putting the pressure on. Look at the 77 sliding to the inside. What a move by Andrew Fayash to make it 3-1 in turn 1, Cam. They have to do this, because if a yellow comes out and there's still 1 lap down, you're in a bad spot. You have to get that lap back sooner than later in case the yellow flag does fly. You're not going to have to stick around and wait for a wave by.
Well, absolutely, that would be worst case scenario, especially when you're this much faster. Just looking at Kenny Humpy, though, I have to say, absolutely miserable time. I want to say he's been trying to get into the pits for the last couple of laps, but you never know. It's just that there are so many cars on brand new tires that Kenny Humpy can legitimately not know. He doesn't come into the pits now. I think he might be trying to go for a full fuel run, which is a miserable idea. He just ran a 29.6. Whereas many of the other cars have been running much faster laps. I mean, on the inside is Josh Berry, 27.8, 28 flat for Brad Davies, Michael J. Johnson running a 28 flat, Patrick Crabtree running a 28 flat, all trying to get their way around Kenny Humpy, who's running darn near 30s. So this is just a miserable time for Humpy. I think, at some point you got to call it here. He's up front. He's got a 9-second lead over the second place car, which is Justin Bolton. But for the most part, though, when do you say enough is enough? He might be trying for that full fuel run, though. We could see. He's the driver. He's the smart one. He's up front.
He does know a thing or two about this. He is a champion in the series, but I tell you what, there's 3 strategies that could be in play tonight. There's a 3-stop strategy, splitting this race into 4s. You would have to go 39 laps per stint. That is right about, I believe, when we saw Michael Conti come down for the first time tonight. Then if you want to do it, a 2-stop strategy, you're splitting the race into 3rds. That means you have to make it 52 laps on each tank of gas, and that is what we saw our pole sitter, PJ Sturgis, do, who is now P10 and 17 seconds behind Kenny Humpy, who now at this point 64 laps into the first run. If he is indeed, Tim, going to do a 2-stop strategy, driving 12 laps past your number wouldn't make much sense. So you almost have to think that he does want to do option C, the 1-stop strategy, go 78 laps on a tank of fuel.
And I'm looking at the 81 right now with Mitchell Hunt. He has been down pit road already. He just passed Thomas Davis. He just passed Dylan Duval. He's moved into position number 4 within the top 5 and chasing down Cody Bias and Justin Bolton just ahead of him. He's the only driver not from the team to be in the top 6 right now, and Mitchell Hunt is making it work. The question is, if this thing goes green for the whole duration, does it work enough for him to take away a win in the number 81 car? Here he goes underneath the number 36 of Justin Bolton to move into position number 2 as he'll complete lap number 65 this time by. It's going to be about 9 seconds or so behind Kenny Humpy, and he continues to make up time. He's 8.1 now behind the 58 of Kenny Humpy leading this race. So the 81 and Mitchell Hunt, one of those that has already come down pit road compared to those drivers from the team, and looking good so far through 66 laps.
And Mitchell Hunt running right now as well, second to Kenny Humpy, got the gap to the guy that has been dominating the race up until the pit stops, PJ Sturgis, as I mentioned, in the number 9 position. He's made up that time because, again, he got the tires much faster and much sooner than the guys that were on the presumably a 2-stop strategy. Mitchell Hunt, we believe, would be on a 3-stop call if he continues with the same increments that he was earlier on in this one. And this is why I don't want to stick with the 2 call, or even with Kenny Humpy with the 1-stop strategy, because there's just so much going on track. And I mean, we saw Fayash swinging to the inside, 3 and 4 wide to the dog leg, getting around people. If this race continues like this, we were fun and we were orderly for the first 30 laps, and it kind of opened a can of worms at that point. But there are so many cars on so many different strategies, running so many different speeds at many different paces, Cam, that it's so unnerving to be somebody in a position that Kenny Humpy's in, hoping that you don't get a yellow, because there's just so much movement on the racetrack.
Well, there absolutely is. A yellow would, well, I think at this point it wouldn't be that bad, because everyone would come in for tires, I would imagine. Well, maybe they would try to stay out, but I think they would get run over. But I think if you're Kenny Humpy, that's what you're working on. We are working on lap number 69. His tires are, by that virtue, 70 laps old as he comes around one more time. He does have that 4.3 second gap as we are looking to Justin Bolton and PJ Sturgios. Sturgios wants his lead back. He did come in for the pits there, which is now the interesting thing, because now when you pit, if you're Kenny Humpy and you're pit, I mean, that's a long way back you are going to find yourself, because the guy who took tires is now 7 seconds behind you. I think that window has gone well out for coming in and following that stop, but as we said, he is the champion. It's difficult to see. I think at this point, if the strategy has any play in it, when someone that's got tires that's 20 laps younger than your tires, whether it's worth it or not to have pulled off for such a strategy. But Evan will have to see how it looks at the end of 156 as we are looking at P7. Thomas Davis and David Rattler, those guys are fighting it off and going into 1.
A battle just 9 seconds behind your leader. Ed Rattler going to go to the bottom of the racetrack. He'll take it away from the 85. Drop Thomas Davis back into P-Don. If you want to follow along with live scoring, you can check us out online. Go on live with us. It'll be racespot.tv/timing, and you can get lap-by-lap data and information right to you at your home PC to follow along with this one, because there's a lot happening. But I agree with that consensus, Cam, because Kenny Humpy up front, no pit stops yet, presumably 1 pit stop to go. He is 6 laps away from the halfway point, 6 laps away from what would be his number if he wants to make it on a 1-stop strategy. You have PJ Sturgis, the number 57, who has been down pit road once, assumably has to come down to the pit lane 1 additional time, but he's only 4 seconds behind you. And then you have multiple guys that are doing the 3-stop strategy call, like a Mitchell Hunt, who's on the inside, and he'll take the race lead away. 81 has pitted once and has either 1 or 2 more trips down to the pit lane to come. At a 58 machine, you think by eliminating that first pit stop entirely, you would want to at least lead to the halfway point so you can know where you'll be in the next 50% of the race, but it looks like he'll be about 3rd by the time you get to halfway, because Hunt got him and PJ Sturgis hot on his heels. 2.5 seconds the gap last time, this time 1.7, so he's besting him by about 0.7 of a second each circuit around, and he's coming at it too.
Here comes the 57 car looking to the inside on the dog leg. The 58 of Kenny Humpy has that 57 now to the inside, going down into corner number 3, and that will be position at number 2 for the 57. The 58 of Kenny Humpy will fall back to position number 3. One of his teammates, I believe, is throwing his hand out the window. That's Thomas Davis to come down to pit road this time. But as you mentioned, Evan, Kenny Humpy, if he's on the 1-stop strategy, it's around lap 80 he's coming in. If Mitchell Hunt is on the 3-stop strategy, his next pit stop is around lap 80. So those two will be back into pit road at the same time. The only difference is that Kenny Humpy, that'll be his final pit stop of the event.
And we could see an audible called as well with the Mitchell Hunt, who pitted it right in line with what we would call the three-stop strategy. If he goes to save Incred, he would have hit again right around lap 78, lap 80 at the halfway point. There is nothing stopping Mitchell Hunt from seeing Kenny Humpy come down pit road if he comes down at this midway point with him and say, well, if I need to pit one more time on my strategy and he's done, maybe I should stay out. And then you just call your first stint short. But no, he will come down for the race lead. 2 laps shy of the cross flags. Race leader Mitchell Hunt is in, and it now gets tossed straight back over PJ Sturgis. The number 57 machine goes back to the point as Humpy also comes in. So far, our fuel numbers are on. PJ Sturgis now back in front at Phoenix by 3.4 seconds, back to the number 21 Toyota of Alan Bose.
Yes, we're kind of going, this is flipping that light switch just like that. We've seen this very, very unique strategy taken by about 6 cars, I think we said. I think at this point it might just now be down to 2 or 3 or 4 whom are just coming into these pits right now. Obviously, we were down to just 2 in the musical chair right there, but we'll see what PJ Sturgios does with Alan Bose and Taylor Hurst trying to push in. And Ray Alfala, now here's something interesting. Ray Alfala started 22nd and 23rd, and just on pace of this race at the very least, they have worked their way all the way up to the front, but you have these wild cars now. You've got Mitchell Hunt and Kenny Hump. We got to see what they do and how they want to run their race. Is Kenny Humpy his first lap back out? That's was a 36.8 second in lap, 56.3 out lap. We'll have to see what he can do as he starts to, just as he had before, go around cars at such a fast speed. Right now, our leader, his last lap was a 28.3. We'll have to see what those new tires are going to do for Kenny Humpy.
Right now, at the halfway point, you're going to see guys coming down pit side that are right now running numbers that would point to a 3-stop and a 1-stop strategy so far. PJ Sturgis, if he sticks on his 2-stop call, we would expect him down to the pit lane at lap number 104, and that would split this race and we'll rate it at the 2/3 mark. So if that's true, he's got plenty of time before he needs to worry about pit road. In from the number 2 spot comes Bose, so Taylor Hurst assumes P2. The 81 machine fighting on the inside, fresh tires trying to get around him. The number 2, Ray Alfala, fighting on the inside, fresh tires trying to get around as well. All these guys part of the fluid action. We just got things settled down. We just got our hands on top of the numbers, and then they're going to go and shake it up once again. We had 33 cars on the lead lap to note before this second cycle of green flag pit stops got underway. That number going to start to shrink because you lose a lap when you do come down for service.
The 2 in the 74 continuing to battle for position number 2. Alex Warren just passed those 2, but he is 2 laps down right now, sitting back in about position number 41. At 2 in the 74, though, putting on a little bit of a show for position number 2. Alfala trying to find a way around Taylor Hurst. Hurst has been strong since we dropped the green flag. Qualifying second, currently position number 2. And Ray Alfala, as mentioned earlier, from 22nd all the way up to position at number 3. Casey Tucker, Matt Busa, strong on the first run of the race. They sit 4th and 5th right now, and Jake Sturgis is lurking back there in position number 6. There's a lot of strong drivers. And oh, by the way, that Chris Overland guy that Rachel picked a little bit earlier, he's sitting back there in position number 7. So he's having a solid first 2/3 of this race so far.
And talked with that team right before the race, and he said that their time was about a 26.775 in Q, but they got the fence. It was disallowed. That would have been good enough to top PJ Sturgis for the pole. He was second best in practice. We know the 47 Chevy has some speed, but again, he started so far back to the outside of row number 21 that it's taken him quite some time to get up, but he is now in the number 8 position, and you have to look at it almost 2 ways, Cam, for the 47. When you start that deep in the pack, it's going to take you lots of time to make the passes and get up front. Good news is we've been green all the way, so he's had plenty of time to make passes. Bad news is we've been green all the way, and he hasn't had an opportunity to get things bunched back up. So all that time it took for him to get those spots, that's why he's so far behind.
Yes, and he's been working his way through as Jake Sturgios goes way wide from trying to take that dog leg. I don't really know what he was planning there, but he completely lost a position there as now Chris Overland will lock in right behind Josh Berry. But I have to say, up front, Ray Alfala and Taylor Hurst are working their way through turn number 1 and into 2. And Ray Alfala in that Ford Fusion, after a very long run, he has worked his way just about to the front. He can see he can just about see anyways, the front end of PJ Sturgios' car. He's got about 5 or 6 lap cars in his way, though. And Mitchell Hunt, who's on those brand new tires, working his way on the inside of PJ Sturgios. I have to say, if you're the leader, at some points, you're a sitting duck here, and that can be very, very concerning. But overall, though, I have to say, we'll see what people want to do here. But Ray Alfala, he's worked his way all the way up to second, at least this far. But we still got those wild cars out there, and it's for putting on a very, very interesting, very unique to Phoenix show.
And one thing to note is we keep talking about a couple of guys that all say they're the headliners of their strategy. Sturgis headlining the two-stop strategy. It was obviously the driver that ended up in front, a defending series champion, Kenny Humpy, who was headlining the one-stop strategy. And we noted a couple of guys doing the three-stop. But in that, there's a couple of people as well on the same strategy as all of those drivers. So it'll be fun to see who ends up inside the top 5, who ends up inside the top 10 at the end of the race, depending on which strategy did pay due dividends. I know that a lot of guys have been dealing with it tonight, but I can't help to not think about Corey Vincent, who is in the middle, 2 guys on the outside of Pasadena, 1 guy on the inside of Pasadena. That's a scenario where PJ Sturgis might find himself in. You might find it strange to see a race leader trying to get out of the way of the cars behind him, but really that's just part of the game when you're on older tires.
And at the end of the race, if this all comes down, the 2-stop strategy, 3-stop strategy, a guy that does a 1-stop strategy, they're all going to be struggling at the end looking for grips. That's going to be something to watch as we go through the end of this race. We're past the halfway point. Kenny Humpy, the driver that led that 1-stop strategy movement, is currently sitting in position number 18, 1 lap down, but it won't be 1 lap down for long. He's looking underneath the 9. Directly ahead of the 9 is PJ Sturgis, your leader. So the 58 of Kenny Humpy about to get back on the lead lap, trying to work his way around the 57 of Sturgis. Sturgis on that inside line through 3 and 4, and I don't think the NX number 57 going to make it overly easy for the PK Antifreeze number 58 to go by. There goes Humpy. He's got the outside line, and the 58 will pick up the lead lap now. He is currently tail end of the lead lap in position number 18.
That goes on at the front of the field, and as well, we were keeping a half eye on the battle back at the back with the order Tyler Hudson, 3-4 wide with the likes of Ottinger and company. Those guys looks like they figured things out somewhat, running 18 seconds behind your race leader. 10 laps away from the number that PJ Sturgis may be going to come down to the pit lane. 10 laps shy of what will be 2/3 distance from Phoenix International Raceway. A little bit after that may be the final point for drivers who want 3 swigs of service to come down. And then, well, you got to run what you got. You're going to run this one out to the end. Sturgis still working with cars behind him, though this time the number 9, Tyler Hill, comes up the back end from 3 laps down in 43rd. It's a good thing to note, guys. Through 41st position, those drivers are all within 1 lap of your leader, and many of those drivers will cycle back to the lead lap once we get everything sorted back out. Everybody is within 3 laps of your leader through Tyler Hill in 43rd position, so everybody running a good, hard, and a clean race. Considering all the chaos that we've seen, the numbers are looking good for everybody.
Yeah, I have to say, this has been developing into a very, very interesting race here, as we're now currently looking at the number 88 car, as, right now we've got some lap cars trying to get their way past our leader as well. And that's, of course, Josh Berry. He's got some cars on the inside, Chris Overland being one of them, with, Tyler Laughlин's on the inside, and he's in a very weird position. He's got new tires, so he's faster, so he's just trying to run that dog leg, but as the expense of that, he is killing his tires. So, as Tyler Laughlin will actually, he thinks about diving from the, going from the dog leg to the max outside, he will actually do that, and Matt Busa will fall under to Tyler Lawton, but that's not saying that much, though. Tyler Lawton's a lap down, and he's getting chased down by Brad Mahar as Matt Busa has a massive wiggle. Oh, he has two massive wiggles, and Justin Bolton has to go well to the inside of the dogleg. They'll go 3 wide through the dogleg, and Busa is going to have to back well out, giving Chris Overland that position here. We've got 3 different races going on the same track at the same positions. This is going to get very interesting and very hairy, I have a feeling here, Evan, as Matt Busa once again having to go 3 wide as they cross the start-finish line. He is falling well back and about to fall into the clutches if he's not careful of Jake Sturgios.
You just saw the debate, gburster.com, Toyota Camry blow by on the bottom. That was Adam Gilliland using the pit road entrance almost to get to the inside on the 34 because he was faster than him. There is just so much of a big change in speed on the racetrack compared to the guys who, it's funny enough because the people that you're seeing getting past are the guys that are inside the top 5, inside the top 10, and leading this race. Somebody that has been slowly peeking into the conversation and may now be starting to show his cards a little bit. How about the number 2 of Ray Alfala, the Alfala Tech Ford Fusion, running in second, 6.1 seconds off of PJ Sturgis, albeit, but he last came down to the pit lane much earlier on in this competition on lap number 52, right on the money at the 1/3 mark in this race. So the 2, I believe, is as well going to be doing a 2-stop strategy call, same as PJ Sturgis. Alfala started 22nd. Sturgis started from the pole. The number 2 Ford could be one of those drivers that I was talking about who is accompanying these guys who are, quote, headlining these strategies, and a 2 somebody that we haven't really talked all much about through this strategy entirely, but the 2 on the same call as the 57 and in a spot to run top 5.
And as he works into corner number 1, we have 3 cars that are 1 lap down right now. Got Tyler Laughlin, Brad Mahar, and there's Justin Bolton poking his nose underneath the Alfala Tech number 2. The 36 has been flat flying these last few laps, past Adam Gilliland, Michael Conti, and now tries to work up on the 13 and the 51. Bolton is one of those drivers on the 1-stop strategy, and he's trying to work his way back up into the top 20. Currently sits in position number 24. And Brad Mahar, we talked about him a little bit earlier, Evan, had a great season to start out so far in the first 2 races, led a lot of laps at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and now trying to get his footing back up into the top 20. The driver from Calais, Maine, looking to make his way back up into the top 20.
And he's been following that 51 in front of him with Tyler Laughlin. They're running 22nd and 23rd. They're working well together. Justin Bolton there as well. Those are 3 drivers that we've been seeing putting in the work on some of the slower cars in front of them, and they have not been afraid to go 2 and 3 wide, which is key because you have to prey on the fact that PJ Sturgis has a lot to lose right now. So do other guys as Chris Overland comes down the pit lane, lap number 100. He is in for service. This next time by 101 go to the books will be 2/3 through the Phoenix 250, and that means for the guys that are coming down pit lane twice, that should be right now. They're on the money. They have their number. Watch for PJ Sturgis. Watch for Ray Alfala to begin to come down to the pit lane. But the point I was making is the guys that are up front, the guys that are slower, they're watching in the mirror, although they probably shouldn't be. They're trying to get out of your way. They don't want to cause an issue because they know that they have the track position cam. So if you're these guys that are catching them hot, as we see Sturgis look to the inside, he'll stay out at least 1 more lap. You got to kind of take advantage of the fact that those guys are trying to run nice and clean, put the pressure on them, make it 2 and 3 wide. That's how you make up time in the long run.
Yes, and I have to say I'm pretty familiar with this type of racing, which is strange enough, because this is almost turning into a sort of a multi-class sort of racing where you've got whoever's on the newest tires is able to just blow past the cars on old tires, and it's flip-flopping between the 2. I think we've talked about that to death, though, as cars like Timmy Hill, Nathan Wise, and Brad Davies, Jake Sturgios are pulling in through pit lane as Ray Alfala also pulls into the pits. He roasts his tires here, and I want to say he just manages to make it under safely as he will be heading out. Now, PJ Sturgios, I can't imagine it'll be too long for him before he gets out, but looking at where Kenny Humpy is, he is working on lap 104, 105 right now, and just so we remember here, he pitted only on lap 76. So if we think about it, as PJ Sturgios is now into the pits, Evan, just where Kenny Humpy is, he is right almost up to the front of this field once again.
We talked about short pit much earlier on in this race, but we did talk about it. Ray Alfalla was 6.7 seconds behind PJ Sturgis. He pitted, and then guess who came in the next time by? The 57 machine. So Ray Alfalla might make up a second and a half or so in that exchange, but the 57 saw that happening, knew that he couldn't wait any longer, but that was a good call. I liked it by Ray Alfalla. The 57 just caught on to it. I don't think he's going to make the gains quite as he would like. Sturgis now out of the pit lane. He spins the tires coming off, and the good news is for the number one pit stall, you can get on the gas and go. He'll ride the inside of the dogleg. He'll slide it back up. Not the best time though on the pit lane with the 17.4 in the box. He's out in turn number 3. We look for the distance back to Ray Alfalla. And Alfalla not all that far away, but I don't think he closed as much ground as he would like. 3 wide to 57. He's done with service tonight. It's go time. Inside on the 46, inside on the 55. He's got to go.
He's going and trying to pick up everything that he can right now. We've been green for the first 106 laps of this race. Mitchell Hunt is now your leader, 2 seconds back to Kenny Humpy. Question is, they both pitted at the same time. They're both turning about the same lap time right now, though Mitchell Hunt in the 81 as he gets passed by the 41 of Jake Sturgis, the 34 of Matt Busa, and here comes the 24 car of Nathan Wise. He pitted at the same time Kenny Humpy did. Mitchell Hunt is on a different strategy than Kenny Humpy. We anticipate Mitchell Hunt down, I think, about lap 120 or so, thereabouts, give or take a few laps. Humpy is out for the duration of the race. He's got that one-stop strategy going. Question is, does it work out for either of them, or do we see a guy like PJ Sturgis or Ray Alfalla win this thing?
Getting up at 58 is not going to be coming back down to the pit lane. So where does he sit in comparison to those that have completed their service now? Well, PJ Sturgis is 16th position, and he is 20.8 seconds back from Mitchell Hunt, who's in front of Kenny Humpy at the moment. And again, we expect the number 81 machine, if he sticks with his strategy, to come down at least one more time, but he might call an audible and just again run a longer second stint, or a longer third stint, if you will, here, seeing on where he's running. So Sturgis that time picked up about 0.2 of a second from your leader. It was about 4 though for Kenny Humpy, who Kenny Humpy's picking up about 0.2 per lap on Hunt. He'll get him for the race lead here at a couple of laps. Question is, can Sturgis navigate that traffic and make up that time gap in under 50 laps?
Well, we're going to find out in about 50 laps. How about that? But I have to say, Kenny Humpy, though, things are starting to get very tight here. People are racing each other for position around. It used to be at the beginning of this race, just some 110 laps ago, that people were really just finding each other out, finding out where they were going to be, where the pace was going to be. Now that things have started to develop, they are giving each other absolutely nothing. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see some pretty hairy action here on the track, as I have to say, looking back already, it's there's a whole pack going around Josh Berry, the 88 car, who is currently in your final position. He's 3 laps down technically, but he is on brand new tires, so he is going well faster than everyone else that's in front of him, and that is producing some very interesting results. So Evan, as we're looking through here, we still have cars that are battling, like Matt Busa, Dylan Rafferty, and Shane Doherty are all working on each other. The number 34 car, Matt Busa, he's worked the dog leg here. I think I've seen the dog leg here has been really killing people's tires, so while they get you a position ahead, well, it just seems to reel you right back in as the time goes on. I have seen Kenny Humpy, he does not like going onto that dog leg too much, and I think that's why how at least he is saving those tires.
There's a lot of action on track, but I do want to mention RaceSpot TV. So happy to be your home at the 2016 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. If you want to hop on the sim and become a member, use the promotional code PR-RaceSpot NASCAR. You can get a 3-month iRacing subscription for just $5. But with so much on track, who do you think is going to win? Tweet to us at RaceSpot TV and use the hashtags NPassPhoenix and a hashtag iRacingWCS and get in on the conversation. Look at Sturgis to the inside of Justin Bolton. Battle for P7. The 57 is happy to get aggressive. Those elbows are now up.
And we're about to have a battle for the lead here as Kenny Humpy goes to the outside of Mitchell Hunt, looking to make it happen for the top spot. Kevin King is there as well. There goes Hunt to pit road. The 29 going to pass his teammate, but it's not going to be for a position. Humpy to the lead, Hunt to pit road, and now Kenny Humpy has to stay out for those remaining laps. At least that's what the strategy is playing out on that number 58 one-stop strategy for the Peak Chevrolet. He's got Alan Bowes 2.8 seconds behind, Nick Johnston, David Rattler, Nick Ottinger appears to be the top 5 once Mitchell Hunt will come down pit road.
Yeah, Hunt came in, he's into his stall now, but he's going to lose a lap. He'll have the tire advantage, so he should be able to get a lead lap finish at the end. I'm impressed with him staying out there, though, and sticking to his strategy, guys. And this is interesting. Kenny Humpy wanted the one-stop strategy. There's no way he planned on doing 2 stops if he waited to the halfway point to come down to the pit lane. Well, he just pitted at lap number 115. He saw that the one-stop call was not the way to go. He calls an audible. He comes down pit road in an attempt to salvage a good finish. We'll see how that plays out, because he'll have the best tires out of anybody when he gets back out there.
And Evan, I have to say, this is the first time I've seen somebody wave that white flag and say, look, this strategy isn't going to work. I'm sure we've missed quite a few audibles going throughout the field, but where will Kenny Humpy come out? Probably somewhere well back. So we will have to see here. He does have another 40 laps to go on those tires, so he's going to end up well back, I think 26th officially, as the Towners will go by. We'll have to see whereabouts he comes out, as Nicholas Johnston will also come in here. I think those one-stoppers, those people who thought that strategy might just work, it just is not going to work out, and I have to say, I was pretty interested to see what might have happened, as him and Mitchell Hunt are just ahead of Kenny Humpy, only now they've got some tires to go race over, so we'll have to see here between Mitchell Hunt and Kenny Humpy what they want to do. Start-finish line, they both cross, and Kenny Humpy back in, 22nd position, so not bad at all.
Talked about Ray Alfala being, before this final swing of service, the second best driver on the 2-stop call to PJ Sturgis, who, by the way, is now your new race leader once again at lap number 119. Alfala 2.8 seconds back, and indeed closed the gap from what was 6.1 seconds much earlier on in this race towards the halfway point, in a spot where if we get a yellow, if we group everybody back up, he might have a shot at it. Under green flag conditions, I'm not necessarily convinced, and I was hesitant, Tim, to say that I like the 2-stop call with PJ Sturgis based on the fact that there's been so much going on track. The fact that just not one person has had a slip-up to cause an accident so far would be a miracle. So far through 120, we're looking okay for now. Sturgis looks like it might pay off for the 57 machine, and a lot of people came in with the 3-stop strategy. He hit it right in the middle, and to see those guys that Cam had mentioned who were originally sticking with the 1-stop strategy call, throw that strategy out the window, admit that, all right, this guy knows what he's doing, and trying to figure out something late in the race has to make the 57 machine feel good, and I bet he's giving props to the guys on top of the pit box for making that call.
But looking back here now, Kenny Humpy, Mitchell Hunt, the last couple of laps have made 3 to 4 tenths a lap on PJ Sturgis. They're only 20 seconds behind him. It depends where this traffic all falls here, but that number 81 and the 58 who are battling right now for 19th and 20th position, as they pass Andrew Fayash, that's actually for 17th position. They might run down those guys in front of them. It's an interesting strategy. Mitchell Hunt had that strategy since the onset. I know Ed Birch is calling the shots for Kenny Humpy, and he might have saw something that said, okay, come on down, let's abandon that one-stop strategy. And I think if he does end up somewhere in the top 5, might be the call of the race for the 58 car.
19.9 seconds back is Kenny Humpy right now, the number 58 Peak Chevy in 18th position on track. But don't forget, PJ Sturgis all that long ago was about 20 seconds back from Humpy, who was out in front yet to come down to the pit lane, and at that time we weren't expecting the number 58 to come back down. So I like the call because, again, you just could stick with it and say, we'll try not to lose too many spots, but there was still plenty of time left on the clock. It's good that it worked out for them where they figured that out with 50 laps to go. At 25 to go, maybe you're not going to get your money's worth for coming back down to the pit lane. You're not going to have enough time to dig for it. But Kenny Humpy is faster than PJ Sturgis. There's no doubt about that. So he's going to be able to work his way back up through the field and get going.
Yes, and we'll have to see what that 58 car can do. I feel like I've been talking about Kenny Humpy all race long, and it's probably because I called him out to win the race here. But I have to say, out of everyone that we've been talking about, I think the 3 cars the 4 cars that we all called out to come away with a victory here, I have to say the majority of whom we picked have all tried different strategies. So I think that's pretty funny that we all managed to pick out people who would do completely different things here. But just looking at Kenny Humpy right now, he's just working, trying to go on the inside of Tyler Hudson, who has fallen well back for some reason. But either way, Mitchell Hunt and Kenny Humpy, these guys are going to be running along. We'll have to see here whether they have the time to catch PJ Sturgios. But Chris Overland, though, I have to say, he's only 1.4 seconds back behind PJ Sturgios. Chris Overland is. Ray Alfalla is only about a second and 0.2 behind Chris Overland. So we have seen some very interesting strategies here. And Chris Overland, for all it's worth, 42nd to second, that's not a bad day at all.
I was just going to note, you got PJ Sturgis leading, who started up there, and then if you look 4th on through 7th, Taylor Hurst, Casey Tucker, Matt Busa, and Jake Sturgis. Those are all names that started inside the top 10. Chris Overland, 42nd to second, as you mentioned. That's 39 cars he passed to gain 40 spots. And then Ray Alfalla, 22nd to 3rd. All under green flag conditions. And that battle for P2 is going to show up well before this race comes to a conclusion. Inside now of 30 laps to go at the Phoenix International Raceway. Back in 2010, Josh Parker took home the checkered flag. Kevin King in 2011, Nick Ottinger in 2012, Michael Conti in 2013, and Ray Alfalla in 2015. PJ Sturgis in front, trying to hang on through the last couple of laps here at the Jewel in the Desert to be the 6th different driver to take a Phoenix checkered flag in 6 NASCAR Pecan Antifreeze Series events.
And within these final 30 laps, they're going to continue to dig harder as Justin Bolton in the number 36, battling side by side with the number 91 car. As Bolton falls back a little bit here, he's back to position number 10. He got the 24 and 29 behind him. He was on that one-stop strategy a little bit earlier on in this race, but you talk about guys going harder late in the race, Evan. They push a little harder, and sometimes push comes to shove, and we have a caution flag. Knock on wood, this thing's been green since we dropped the green flag here this evening. But we've seen at Phoenix, late race restarts could very well come back and bite you in the rear end. You can ask Kevin King what happened back in 2010, 2012, when he was almost going 3 in a row here at this racetrack prior to the reconfiguration. PJ Sturgis looking good so far, but if we do see a late race caution, a restart could very well jumble up those plans.
I don't have any wood on me to knock on. We keep talking about the yellows, and so far it's so good for PJ Sturgis in front of the field. If you were to see one, well, he doesn't want to see it because he's well out in front of Overland by 2.2 seconds. Alfalla closed it on the 47. We're going to see a battle here for P2. Cut off at turn number 4. It's 2.2 seconds plus behind your leader. Alfalla most likely not going to get the Sturgis unless the 57 machine makes a self-inflicted error or gets tangled up with some lap machines. He's well out in front. A yellow wouldn't be all that bad because he'd still be in front of the field. He'd have the opportunity to lead us back to the green flag for a restart, depending on what happens on the caution flag and on the pit lane, as opposed to some of the other guys who their strategy call has them playing catch-up at the end, as opposed to PJ Sturgis, who up front is playing the defense. But I'll tell you what, 47 to P2, it'll be a battle for the second spot on the racetrack at 25 laps to go. Alfalla's much quicker, but Chris Overland probably doesn't want to give it away too easily, and in fact, they got some company up the inside. Lap machine with fresher tires comes Nick Ottinger.
Yeah, Ottinger comes along. I was going to say I was almost expecting him to cross between Alfalla and Overland, but he doesn't do that. He plays nice, Nick Ottinger, realizing he will go to the inside, almost near the pit entry wall. But he will choose against that. That will slow up Chris Overland going into turn number 1. And Ray Alfalla, using that opportunity, says, "Excuse me, good sir, I'll take that inside line." But that outside line holds. Overland's tires just good enough to continue to go, and they will both clip just a little bit of the dogleg. And that's Josh Berry looking onward. He should have faster tires there, Josh Berry, but we'll have to see what is going on here as Overland and Alfalla are plotting and planning to see what they can do. They're wrangling their cup cars around this difficult Phoenix mile. And I have to say here, it's right now in the hand of PJ Sturgios, but he's now actually starting to work on some what we would call traditional lap traffic here. Cars that are doing similar lap times to him, but just slow enough, and they are fighting each other, so we'll have to see if Sturgios can dispose of this traffic here, and perhaps that will allow Chris Overland, Ray Alfell to catch up. And by the way, just because I seem to be talking about it certainly a lot this race, Kenny Humpy up to 10th position.
Needs a good fight back there a little bit with Mitchell Hunt. He just took that spot away from him, and he drops the 81 now back to 11th. And Hunt's going to have to deal with Ryan Borges, who first time NASCAR PK Antifreeze Series competitor, running a career best right now in the number 12 spot, doing a good job down in turns number 1 and 2. Battle for second, though, where all eyes are going to be, and you see just behind him the number 88 machine coming up the back and trying to get on by Josh Berry in the Peak Chevy. 3 laps down in 42nd position. Oh, how the tides can change from where he was running earlier on in this race. But Overland now assumes the role of Taylor Hurst. We saw this early in the race in the opening 30 laps. He might be a little bit slower, but he's got the outside lane if you try to go to the bottom.
And the advantage is, too, is those two are teammates, LRM, Slip Angle, they're working together. So Chris Overland and Ray Alfalla, I'm sure, have communication with each other as they continue to work around this racetrack. I've been watching this gaggle around Mitchell Hunt, Brian Blackford, Brad Davies. Kevin King's back here as well, not for position, but the 81-22 and the 11 battling just around the top 10. Mitchell Hunt now in 10th, and now Brad Davies looks at the 22 of Brian Blackford, with Kenny Humpy working up and the 81 working up in this pack. There were some 2 and 3 wide moves there that were a little bit nervous from up here, but it looks like the 22, the 11, they've got it all sorted out as Blackford tries to hold off Kevin King, not for position, but King's got new tires.
You've seen plenty of passing all night long with the cars on different strategies. Most of that has been cars trying to get laps back. Now you're going to have those coming into these final couple of laps for position, and they're most definitely going to get a lot more passionate, shall we say, about giving up those spots. We're inside 20 to go. Let's take a look at your peak top 10 as they run right now. Sturgis leads the way, 2.2 seconds in front of Ray Alfalla, who is right behind Chris Overland, and that battle continues from P2 to P3. Taylor Hurst behind in 4th, and P5, Casey Tucker, with Matt Busa 8 seconds back, Jake Sturgis in 7th, 10 seconds back, Kenny Humpy, Mitchell Hunt, and Brian Blackford through the number 10 position, battling on the racetrack for some of the top spots out there. And you try to find a battle and you look inside. How about Hurst? How about the number 28 of Tucker? Side by side for the number 4 spot in turn 1. 3 wide, got to the bottom of the racetrack, making a move. Lap machine Adam Gilliland halfway to the inside retaining wall. They'll be 3 wide in turn number 3. Inside for Tucker, can't quite get clear. Taylor Hurst just seems that he can't catch a break, and he's staying on the outside of the racetrack, and he'll defend once again. Drag race down the front, the nose to Hurst that time.
Well, absolutely. Taylor Hurst, though, that 74 car, that Chevrolet, he's been able to keep that outside line working a lot longer than I thought he would be able to. But the 28 of Tucker, well, you know, he's just going to have to follow in behind here. He'll have to see what he can do. He keeps deving to the inside like that. He is going to be using his tires. And ultimately, though, I think he is going to see some serious fall-off as the race goes on. These guys are fighting, though. Matt Busa's looking on, not too far behind in that 34 Toyota Camry to make it a 3-manufacturer run for position number 4 here. Tucker leaning onto the inside once again. He takes such a tighter entry into turn number 2 as they hit the dog leg. Well, much more polite that time, Evan, I have to say, as they were going through the dog leg.
They're trying to be civil about it, but I'll tell you what, a couple of top 10 positions going to be on the line soon, and they'll start rubbing on each other, and it's going to get down to it. We'll see, because it looked like Overland and Alfalla were beginning to close in a little bit on Sturgis, and now they go right back at each other. And because of that, well, they're going to start to lose time. Ray Alfalla, the number 2 Ford, is on the back of Chris Overland. 144 laps, going to go to the books this time by. Let's take a lap on board your 2-time champion. And you see Alfala, he's tracing the back line of the number 47 Chevrolet in front of him, but it is PJ Sturgis 2.7 seconds ahead and working to the inside on the number 36 machine, this time by 146 laps to the books. 10 laps to go from Phoenix.
And I think if you look at some of these guys back here, Evan, I'm looking at Kenny Humpy. He's 7th place. He might get a top 5 out of this run, but unless he gets a caution, he isn't going to catch these guys up in front. Alfala continues to stalk Chris Overland for position number 2, and then Taylor Hurst, Casey Tucker, and Matt Busa going at it side by side, 74 and 28. 74 gets the run off the corner. Here comes the 34, looking to the inside of the number 28 of Casey Tucker, and about 2 seconds or a second and a half behind is Kenny Humpy. That battle for 4th is going to get intense as we come down to the stripe.
Matt Busa there as well, the 34, the Gale Force Sim Racing entry. He's going to want to get up on it again, and he's been somewhat passive tonight. We saw him in a battle earlier on in this race, really didn't go forwards, and that when he started P6, and he runs P6 right now. He just kind of had a quiet night, which so far might not be a bad thing, because we've been talking about a lot of people who've been trying out a lot of different things. For Busa to fly under the radar right now and be in a spot to maybe battle for a top 5 spot, not all that bad. However, Hurst going to get stuck on the outside. He's stuck behind lap traffic, and to the bottom goes Casey Tucker, and that 74 has gotten over to go, and the 28, he's not going low because he wants to keep that 74 pinched behind Cody Bias. Smart move by Casey Tucker.
Oh, absolutely, but then Casey Tucker right into the back of Nick Furler, as almost the exact same thing is going to happen unless something can change. Nick Furler trying to go up as much as he can. He spins, well, he almost spins it. He spins the rears. How about that? As Humpy will look to the inside, and they do make contact as they are starting to rub and run on each other here. Taylor Hurst having to be pushed up the wall. A little bit of front-end damage. I think this is the first contact we've had all race. We've only got 6 laps to go.
And at 58, he saw the contact up in front of her, and he saw the 55 machine get sideways off the corner, pinch Hurst up there just after it looked like Hurst was coming back. And Humpy swung to the inside. He got the spot away, albeit he did use a little bit of the right side of the big Chevrolet. But now Kenny Humpy inside of the top 5, and he's closed it in. Can he get to Casey Tucker? 28 machine battling with the 42. Humpy down to the inside, all the way to the dog leg in turn number 3. 5 laps to go, and he'll drive it in hard. The battle for P4 alive and well. Humpy, power move to get door to door.
Side by side at a corner number 4, the 28 going to get the run off the corner. The 58 still going to be on the inside. What does he do down into corner number 1? Drives it in deep on the number 28. Casey Tucker on the outside. What a beautiful run through 1 and 2 for Kenny Humpy. Humpy is going to try to take this position down the back straightaway. Battle for position number 4, heating up in the final 5 laps of this race as the top 3 trying to settle it amongst themselves. Overland now has a little bit of a gap on that 2 of Alfala as they battle through traffic. Humpy clears Tucker. That is for 4th.
Kenny Humpy now inside of the top 4, and we talked about the audible call that they made last second was on a one-stop strategy. Figured out it wasn't working, came down with about 50 laps to go, and now he is back up inside of the top 4. If he did not come down pit road, he would be nowhere close to that. So a spectacular call for the 58 machine and a great recovery to be inside the top 5 at this point. Overland and Alfala, that's still the battle for P2, and they're not running away from each other quite yet, but the 47 in front did gain a little bit of time. It'll be popsicle sticks, though, in the air this next time by. A caution now would end this race. PJ Sturgis, a little over 2 miles left to go.
Well, just about 2 miles left in this race, but just about 2 feet between Chris Overland and Ray Alfala. That last time by there, it looked like Overland got well loose here. It is going to be a run of the tires here. Overland and Alfala are at the extent of where their tires can take them. They are running high 29s here. We'll have to see if Alfala can work his way back up, but we'll have to see who comes away with second place here.
47 machine of Overland knows that he's got to give that car everything that it's got from here on out. The white flag will fly this time by for Sturgis.
Last lap coming up for PJ Sturgis, and looking for a huge NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series victory here. And he's looking clean and green. Battle heating up for second. Alfala going to try to take it from Overland, but Evan, he needs a little bit of a shot here.
Overland looks clear of Valhalla. PJ Sturgis, no worries about it. It'll be the 6th different winner in 6 races at the Phoenix International Raceway. Final time off of turn number 4. PJ Sturgis from pole to checker, winner for race number 3 on the 2016 season. Battle for P2 behind, gonna go to Chris Overland in front of Ray Alfalla on the podium. Somehow, Kenny Humpy ends up with the number 4 spot, and Casey Tucker round out your top 5 finishers. What a race! Not a single yellow start to finish. 3 or 4 different strategy calls in play, but it was the Lastro Motorsports number 57 Ford Fusion to PJ Sturgis who had the right one.
Well, it was a very, very exciting race, I have to say, and this is probably the most interesting thing. And I know we always laugh and joke around the word on the street. You know, these guys are doing nothing but bumping into each other. As Sturgios will loop that car around, giving up the smoke screen to the fans. As you have PJ Sturgios, and all the way down in position 43 is Tyler Hill. Every single car finishing this race for PJ Sturgios. That has got to be a happy feeling there, as he is just lighting it up on the front stretch, Evan.
He wants to get all the celebration he can. Added the number 57 Ford Fusion. He continues to burn that thing down all the way from the start-finish line and somewhat of the Polish victory lap back down to turn number 4. PJ Sturgis taking home the checkered flag tonight at Phoenix International Raceway, a winner in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, and he'll head down towards victory lane. Let's take a look at your final results for the Phoenix 250. PJ Sturgis takes home the win over top of Chris Overland, Ray Alfalla, Kenny Humpy, and Casey Tucker, as we documented, who finished inside of the top 5. Just behind them, P6 for the 34 of Matt Busa. Taylor Hurst going to walk away with a P7 result, and a P8 as well. Good finish for Mitchell Hunt. Jake Sturgis, the 41 of Machida, will come home tonight in the number 9 position, and rounding out your top 10 finishers, the number 21, that's Alan Bowes. We continue to look on the number 11 spot, going to be Nicholas Johnston. David Rattler in the number 12 spot. 13th position will be Ryan Borges. Brad Davies just behind in 14th and 15th as well. Brian Blackford. Nick Ottinger in 16th position. 17th for Tyler Hudson. Andrew Fayash the third. Going to round out your lead lap finishers tonight behind the wheel of the number 77, with Brad Mahar coming home just behind Tyler Laughlin in 19th and in 20th.
Yes, and finishing back in 21st, it was Brian Daly. We're getting into the cars that are lapped down. It was Adam Gilliland in 22nd, Brandon Schmidt in 23rd, Michael Johnson in 24th, Timmy Hill in 25th, Corey Vincent in 26th, Trey Edson in 27th, Michael Conti in 28th, and Shane Doherty in 29th, Dylan Duvall in 30th, and well, it's just lap down and lap down from here.
Rafferty as well, 1 lap down in 31st, 32nd is Thomas Davis, and 33rd is going to be Nick Furler as well. Justin Bolton, Kevin King through 35th. Damon Burnett, Alex Warren round out the drivers that finished 1 lap down in 36th and 37th. 38th position tonight, 2 laps to the rears is Nathan Wise. Ryan Lowe, 39th. Cody Bias, 40th. They as well come home 2 laps down. And in the final 3 drivers, finishing just 3 laps behind your leader. Not a single car went behind the pit road wall early tonight. It'll be Patrick Crabtree, Josh Berry, and Tyler Hill picking up the checkered flag through 43rd position and rounding out your field entirely. So with that, we get set to talk to your top finishers as the 3rd round on this championship draws to a close, and we get set to look forward in 2 weeks' time to Auto Club Speedway. But in the meantime, we step away and we'll return in just a moment for the Race Spot TV post-race show. You're watching Race Spot's coverage of the 2016 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing, streaming live on iRacing Live, fanschoice.tv, and the Motor Racing Network. Plenty more coverage to come on the other side. Stay tuned.
Welcome to post-race coverage here at Phoenix International Raceway. We've just gone green flag to checkered flag without a single yellow one. Richard Wyford here joining you for the post-race show. I've got the drivers I should say. We have your top 5 drivers here with us. I'm going to chat to them in just a moment. Also joined by Evan Pasoko, Cam Walsh and Tim Terry for your post-race thoughts and conclusions. But first, we're going to talk to one half of what is often referred to as the Bush brothers of the Peak Antifreeze series here. It is PJ Sturgis. He was in his brother's shadow last week when he won at Atlanta, but today it's the first time win. The glory and the joy of that for PJ Sturgis.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Yeah, it's awesome to finally pick up my first win in this series after trying for so long. I didn't expect it to go green to checker like that, and starting on the pole certainly helped. So yeah, pretty much almost a perfect night, except for that last pit stop where I forgot to put gas in it. That cost me about 5 seconds, but yeah, kind of lucky to be able to scrape out of it with the win. Feels really good.
Strategy obviously a difficult one for today. Was anybody telling you about Kenny Humpy's one stop that it looked like it was going to be?
Yeah, I saw that, and I thought we were kind of all set, and then wow, it's kind of amazing that he picked it back up all the way to 4th place. I mean, that's no surprise out of Kenny. He's pretty much the best short track racer in all of iRacing. So, but yeah, hats off to the whole team. We got 5 of us here in the top 10. Shows kind of the effort that the whole LRM and Slip Angle Alliance, the effort those guys put in week after week. Also, thanks to all the guys at NX, Phil Diaz for being up in the spotter stand, iAnalyze for having the name on the car and all their support, and everything that those guys do. So wouldn't be possible without all of them.
A brilliant result, and well, you stuck to your strategy, and your strategy paid off. Any sponsors you'd like to give a shout out to, PJ?
Yeah, just the ones there, and I mean, like I said, Phil Diaz being up on the spotter stand, he calmed the whole race. I mean, it gets pretty nerve-wracking being out there in the lead and seeing all these different strategies play out. Not sure how it's all going to wind up, so I can't thank everyone enough. I'm glad that we put all that work in to figure this chassis out this week. We had that thing going really well.
You certainly did exactly what you needed to do, and PJ Sturgis is finally a race winner in the Peak Antifreeze series. You can join his brother in that club. And thanks for joining us, PJ. We'll get a chance to talk to you perhaps later. Of course, we now have Cam Walsh standing by with the guy who brought it home from all the way at the back. 42nd starting position. Climbs 40 places on the grid to second. I'm standing by with Chris Overland.
Yes, Chris Overland, that number 47 car, just 4.4 seconds back. Well, I think when you started this race, you were a little further back second-wise. But, well, at the end of the day, I mean, dropping 40 positions and finishing in second, that's not a bad day, all things considering. It's Phoenix.
Yeah, and I want to explain to my sponsors and everybody involved why I started 42nd. In iRacing, when you make contact with the wall or any other object during your qualifying lap, it disallows it, and I made a little bit of contact with the wall off turn 4 on my qualifying lap, which was actually a pretty decent lap. So we had to start from the back, but the race setup was so good that I was able to just pick my way through the field, and maybe if I had a little bit more time there, I started catching PJ towards the end, and then me and Ray started racing. So first off, congrats to PJ, and second off, big thanks to the Slip Angle Last Row Motorsports guys for giving me such a fast car. I had to pass. It felt like between passing for position and passing cars on older tires when I pitted, things like that, it felt like 100-something cars. So the car was really good in traffic, we'll say that.
Well, I think you needed a good car in traffic to get around here at Phoenix. The mile long, I have to say, well, I mean, you definitely at least passed 40. Now, a caution-free run, especially on a mile long, is something that I can't imagine is that common. What did you feel like there was going to be a caution at some point? Were you planning for one, or I imagine if you were, something definitely had to change?
Well, I'm not a religious person, but I was praying for one. I knew that if the caution fell at the right time and I was able to get on same strategy as everybody else, that it would have been really beneficial for us. But as far as the 1 mile tracks go, it's not uncommon. I know we do it at New Hampshire a lot, so I think we go there this year. So I'd expect that to happen. Second to last race of the year. But for the most part, no. I've done plenty of practice races this week, and there was a lot of cautions involved. So it was a nice surprise. I think that it worked out to my favor for the most part, but just that one last position I couldn't get.
Well, just 4 seconds ahead, and you can't really blame him. PJ was on it all day long, but I think the question probably everyone wants to hear here is another take. We've got a new low downforce package. Obviously, you like it pretty well, judging how far you
I
came up
love
ahead.
it.
But yeah, all right. Well, just go into it. How I don't want to say hard was it getting up to speed in this thing, but you seem to be taking to it.
Well, it's not very often you get to beat Ray Alfala, and me and him made a little bit of contact during the race, but when I first got out there to start practicing with it, I knew from the very beginning that it was going to take a lot more finesse, and it definitely helped my driving style. I'm not, without giving too much away, I'm not really somebody who just mats the gas and wheels through the corner, and I'm sure it doesn't promote any kind of racing like that, so it definitely helped me. My spotter, Jake Nichols, definitely helped a lot. I think I made a 4 wide pass on the apron around lap 70 or 80, so I took to it pretty well, and I'm really excited for the next coming weeks because I've never finished better than third before tonight, and I actually had a pretty decent shot at the win. So hopefully next week at Auto Club in Texas and every track to come will be just as strong, and when qualifying goes my way, I might be able to steal one of these things.
Well, we can only hope, Chris. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your night for coming in here. Congratulations on coming home in second place. I'm sure at some point with races like that, we're going to see you just one step further, just with due time. Keep at it, boss, and I'm sure we'll be happy to talk with you then, too. But for now, Chris, thanks very much for hopping in the booth, and I'll toss it right back to Rachel Whiteford.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Cam. And, well, P1, first-time winner. P2, again, first highest position for him as well, so it's a race of change on the new low downforce package. And well, we talked to him in the pre-show, and we got an interview, of course, with the driver of Ray Alfala, and well, it's going to be Evan standing by to talk to Ray.
So a career best P1, a career best P2. The story changes when they get down to the number 3 spot. Ray Alfala, no stranger to finish it up front in these NASCAR PK Antifreeze Series races. Ray, this one good enough for third, but I'll say green start to finish, no cautions, definitely a lot of fuel strategy there. We just talked with Chris Overland. He said he couldn't get that one last spot, try to go for the win. It looked like you were just a little bit short as well of getting that one last spot because you and that 47 fought hard a lot there in those final 20 laps, but it's good enough for a podium. How'd it go?
Yeah, I didn't make it easy on myself. I put the Alpha forward 22nd on the grid. Just messed up qualifying a bit. But yeah, fortunately, everyone on slip angle and last row, made a great handling car, and we were able to march our way through the field without the help of a yellow. So, it just I think that's the second straight week with all of our teammates in the top 3. So, congrats to PJ on his win. I know that was well deserved, and I think he pretty much dominated.
It was definitely an exciting race, all things considered. A lot of passing going on. PJ guesstimated he had to pass over 100 cars, and I think that's well realistic to believe because there was a lot going on. When you were on the flip side of the strategy, you had guys that had short-pitted you, getting around you, and then you'd get fresh tires, and then you were trying to dig around them. What was it like trying to manage that in a race where you go green for 156 laps, but it wasn't strung out single file? They had you busy the whole time.
Yeah, I didn't see Phoenix as a race that would go green all the way. So I thought everybody did a really good job though, especially with the dogleg on the backstretch, and sometimes 3 and 4 wides are there, and new tires and old tires. So considering how much of a difference it is between the cars that are on old tires versus the cars that just came out of pit road, I thought the field overall did a great job to keep it clean.
So it is the first race, obviously, on the 2016 low downforce package, and I assume you like it, unless you're going to go Kyle Busch on to be here. You were good enough for a P3 in it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like it. Although at Phoenix, you're not going to see much of a difference because of the lower speed. So we'll see more of a difference next race at Fontana and then Texas. But yeah, anything that makes it harder to drive and less setup dependent is better.
You continue rolling on with the momentum, Ray. Congratulations, solid finish. We will see you in those 2 weeks' time from the Auto Club Speedway for round number 4.
Thank you. See you guys.
That is the driver of the number 2 machine, Ray Alfaro. Rachel coming home tonight on the podium. He's good enough for 3rd.
It certainly was, Evan, and of course, the top 3, some pretty big names there, and all of them roughly related to one of those teams. But the first guy to really come home today in the top 5, who did not belong to the LRM Slip Angle Motorsports Alliance, is the driver of Kenny Humpy, driver of the team, and Tim Terry is interviewing the team man, T. Tim?
Well, Kenny Humpy comes home in position number 4 here this evening, and Kenny, it looked like at the start of the race, you came in around lap 80, so we were thinking, okay, one-stop strategy for the 58. Then all of a sudden, you follow Mitchell Hunt down pit road a lap after he came down pit road in the second half of the race. Who made that call to come down pit road?
That was just sort of my call. I kind of realized after that first run, whenever they were able to pass me before I even pitted, on lap 78 or wherever we pitted there halfway, we were just really banking on a caution to come out and just kind of get lucky that way, but it never really panned out. And I knew that I was probably going to be, a lap or two, and I'd have to save a little fuel, which would just cost me more time, but everybody on the team did a great job on the setup. It was a fast car. Chose a wrong pit strategy that kind of cost us there at the end. But, to come back to finish 4th, couldn't be any more proud of that.
You and the 81 came off pit road at both the same place on track as you guys started to bob and weave your way through traffic. Mitchell seemed to catch the wrong side of the inch when it came to traffic. How nervous were you trying to cut your way up through from about 20th place all the way up to 4th?
Yeah, it was definitely, sometimes, the cars on old tires, man, they just don't drive very good, and, you're out there on what feels like ice. So kind of what keeps us from actually doing a full fuel run and actually paying off. But, yeah, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking trying to get through cars and, dodge and weave, as you said, and it's tough. But, like I said, if a caution comes out at a different time, that strategy pays off, and just this race it didn't, and, hopefully next week we'll hit the right strategy and be able to contend for a win.
Rachel mentioned top 3 are from LRM or Slip Angle. Casey Tucker's there as well, and they got a couple of other drivers near the front of the field, but your team finished in 4th. Then you had a couple of guys outside the top 20. A little bit of struggle tonight for the team?
Yeah, that it all just goes back to that strategy. I was far enough in front of those guys because they were around 15th or 10th to 15th, and I had such a gap on them that I was able to do that second pit stop without it really affecting me, and they couldn't do that because they were so far behind to begin with. It would actually cost them more, but the setup was great. Everybody, Cody Bias, Jared Crawford, Justin Bolton, everybody put a lot of effort into it, and we ended up being a lot faster than I think we thought we were going to be, and which is a good sign. Like I said, the strategy just didn't fall our way. It happens. It's part of racing. Congrats to PJ. I think that's his first win in the Peak Series, so got to say congrats to him, and thanks to everybody at Peak and everybody in iRacing that puts this series together.
Before we let you go, last season you started off Daytona up front, rode that wave of momentum all the way to the championship. First 2 races of the season, you were 33rd in the point standings. You finished 4th here this evening. How big of this is a turning point for the rest of the season and also heading into 2 weeks' time at Auto Club?
Oh, it definitely is definitely a little bit of momentum that we can kind of use, and we kind of learned some things about the new build this past week that hopefully will help us at Auto Club. We can come with another good setup like we did here tonight, and I'm looking forward to Auto Club. I think it's a 2-mile track, but most of the tracks we go to is a 1.5 miles, so we'll kind of know where we are stacked up against everybody after that race, and hopefully we can come away with a solid finish there and try to get some points back on these guys.
And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. That's Kenny Humpy defending NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing champion Rachel. He turns the corner here this evening on this 2016 season, finishing in 4th.
So it does. Thank you very much, Tim. Well, the last driver in your top 5 who is here for tonight's race was driver of Casey Tucker, driver of the number 28 machine. Casey, tough race for you today. You started in P4, great qualifying effort. P5 was the best you could really manage in this one. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, the car was great. Yeah, 5th was about all I was going to get. I couldn't quite hang on that last run. Didn't get through traffic as good as Ray did. I came out right behind him. But the car was amazing. I just kind of messed up getting through the cars, you know. It was kind of hard to judge it whenever cars are going way slower than you. You didn't want to run anybody over, so you did your best to just navigate through them without losing too much time.
Absolutely, and the strategy, of course, was pretty much set in stone for most of the field. Did you guys feel like calling an audible at any point and going off strategy, perhaps following what Kenny was trying to do up until he changed?
No, not really. We pretty much went with what we had. I did pretty much the exact same thing Ray did in that race. The way our car was, it was pretty much perfect for that exact strategy we had. It was just a matter of how the cautions fell. It was a little bit risky at times, you know, whenever you're back there in 20-something after you've come out of the pits. And, you know, if you get a caution right there, that really hurts you. But, you know, fortunately it went green and all the strategies seemed to play out fairly evenly. Some were better than others. I think ours was one of the better ones.
Well, it certainly ended in a good way, and you came home, of course, in a top 5 position, which, of course, is great for your points. Thanks for joining us, Casey.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to thank, though, Infinite Creative Solutions, Last Row Motorsports, Slip Angle, Peak, and NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series and iRacing for putting this on. And you guys for broadcasting. Thanks.
We do our best. Thanks for joining us, Casey. Well, guys, of course, it's been an interesting race today. Not only one of the fastest races we've ever had in the Peak Antifreeze Series here at Phoenix, of course, going green flag to green flag. And what a race we had. This was strategy was the story of tonight's race. Kenny Humpy trying the one-stop, not really working out. Of course, I was watching throughout the race, and, well, that was certainly an interesting call. Of course, Evan, Cam, Tim, you, of course, all have your opinions on that one. Do we think perhaps Kenny was trying to go to a point where he could stretch that first stint and have what we would consider an inevitable caution at Phoenix, bring him back into the game, put him on the same playing field, use it to make track position? Do you think he was expecting a caution on one of the pit cycles, which is a common place for it to occur? I mean, what do we think, Evan?
I think that's definitely had to be in the back of his mind, and that's why I was a little bit doubtful and skeptical to hop on with PJ Sturgis there with the 2 stops because, you know, any track, not just Phoenix. You look at a bigger track like a Fontana in 2 weeks. Even there, during green flag pit stops, there's a lot of cars going different speeds. That closing rate is up there. Incidents can happen. In fact, they most always do happen. Somehow tonight, we didn't see a single one. All 43 drivers that started this race finished within 3 laps of your race leader, and it took just 1 hour and 17 minutes start to finish. That's incredible. So that's why I think the guys that, like Kenny Humpy, did the 1-stop, or the guys that did the 3-stop strategy as well, they were expecting that at some point that caution flag was going to come out. I will say, though, Kenny Humpy making that call to come down to the pit lane for the second time after it was clear that wasn't the initial strategy call. To do that, to be able to walk with the P4, is what you call making the best of the situation.
It certainly is, of course. That's one of those places you have to make an audible decision. Of course, you've heard that word said during this broadcast many times, viewers. Audible decisions, Cam. Basically, the team obviously will come into the race with a strategy, and should that not work, as we saw with Kenny Humpy, they have the ability to have a backup plan they can activate. They can call an audible pit stop. They will literally call it over the radio, decide that happening now, change things up. And do you think they waited the amount of time? Do you think they could have come in sooner?
Well, I think just overall, it's one of those races that it's unpredictable in that it wasn't unpredictable. It's just, that is about as John Madden as I can get here tonight. But It's one of those things where you go to it and you look, all right, hey, caution will come out maybe midway through the race. Maybe some people were expecting to get some early lap cautions with a couple of issues going through the dogleg, get those fuel numbers going, and then maybe swing with the punches, seeing what happens, see if this was going to be a tires race off a pit road, or like we saw today, which was absolutely brilliant. I love that it went green to green, the amount of, or green to checkered. The amount of strategy that was involved was absolutely fantastic, and we saw no less than 3 different strategies being played out to their fullest. We saw that the couple of strategies didn't work. The one stop obviously did not work, but I thought once we saw about 40 or 50 laps in, we would really we were starting to really see the one stoppers really struggling, and I think that people, honestly, Kenny Humpy made a great, as well as Mitchell Hunt, you can't forget him. They made great calls to come in when they did, and they ended up coming away with great positioning, and you can't blame them there. But I have to say, this has probably been my favorite race so far out of the 3 we've had. It's gone green to checkered, and I can't go wrong with that when you don't have a single retirement.
Well, that's certainly a good finish, having no retirements at all in the race, which is unusual again for oval racing. Accidents happen, mistakes happen, but no, we had everybody finish who started, which is an incredible, incredible race. Tim, going to come to you for this one. Phoenix, we know, historically not a track you make a lot of passes at. It's fairly track position orientated. Yet we see Chris Overland go 42nd to second. How do you do it?
A lot of pit strategy, and we saw a lot of those passes having to be set up going into the corner. We saw, especially early in the run, guys trying to make the pass from the center off on that inside line. You just can't get the run off when there's somebody on the outside. But with all the pit strategy happening, with getting the good out of your tires early in the run, Chris Overland was able to come up from P42 to P2. But then again, he had a good run in qualifying, just did not get that time on the board. We all knew he had a good car. It's just a matter of if he could pass, and he had a lot of green flag racing to do so. PJ Sturgis, great to see him in victory lane after being in the series for so many years and finally putting his name on the board. But you look at the winners on this series so far this season. Alan Bowes, yes, he's won before, but coming back into this series strong and into victory lane. Jake Sturgis, same thing. He's won a couple of races before, wins the second race of the season, and now his brother is in victory lane. Ray Alfalo's run strong. Yes, Kenny Humpy's been in the top 5 this evening, but when do we see those guys finally crack and get a victory? I think Auto Club is going to be a very interesting race, round number 4 of this series. We might see one of those familiar faces in victory lane, but with a lot of the green flag racing that we've seen, qualifying might very well be at a premium when we go to Fontana in 2 weeks' time.
It certainly will, and don't forget that will be on the 29th of March. You can catch the Fontana race. It's going to be epic. But speaking of epic, we're going to go to Evan Pasoko now for his final thoughts and for the end.
It was fun tonight, and again, every other Tuesday, your NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series fix can be had right here on Race Spot TV, but every single Tuesday, this is the home of your live sim racing coverage. Next week, it'll be NASCAR Race Night right here on Race Spot TV, and again, the 29th, we'll be at it for round number 4 from the Auto Club Speedway. But that does bring now round number 3 to a close. And slowly but surely, we're going to see a championship picture begin to form as we close in on a championship that still seems a long ways away, but I can promise you that those final couple of races will be here before you know it. So, I want to thank everybody again for watching this presentation of Race Spot TV, streaming live at iRacing Live and Fans Choice TV, along with the Motor Racing Network. For more information about the iRacing World Championship Series, please visit wcs.iracing.com. On behalf of Director Hugo Louise, Will Vincent, and everybody else behind the scenes at Race Spot TV, and for the broadcast team tonight, for Rachel Whiteford, Tim Terry, Cameron Walsh, my name is Evan Pasoko, congratulating PJ Sturgis as the winner this evening from Phoenix International Raceway as a first-time winner. in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. We'll see you all next week for iRacing NASCAR Race Night right here on Race Spot TV and iRacing Live. And then once again on the following Tuesday, March the 29th, it'll be round number 4 of the 2016 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing from Fontana, California, right here on Race Spot TV. Good night.